Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 248. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V. 248 episodes in, Johnny. And
we're still 8 minutes late?
Well, not just that. And tonight, I won't even blame you like I normally do.
Nope.
We are going to have a very special guest who was out there, I'll say, kicking butt and taking names, crushing this weekend.
Fools.
Yeah, he was doing that. Dan Hastings is going to be joining us tonight, so we're going to have a talk with him to talk a little bit about the magic he was working. Yeah, there's Masters Cup and Double G winning his first NT. He should have done that a decade ago is what I think, because he's that good.
Ouch.
Well, because he's that good.
He should have done it a decade ago.
Because he's that good. That's a compliment.
He took second a couple times at some NTs and just couldn't get over the hump until recently. And to be fair, everyone's probably expecting like, well, why don't you have Double G on tonight? Double G is one of the hardest people to get on because they tend to do a lot of camping, and they just tend not to have a lot of cell signal, or they just don't make it a priority where they're traveling and things like that. So Double G and Jessica Weiss usually are always a difficult catch on a Tuesday night. We've tried so many times.
They can be. And in all fairness, just so all the any presidents of their fan clubs, we did not reach out to them. I knew I wanted to talk to Dan as well, and I know that what's great is having someone like Double G and Jessica on any given week when they're both dominating, or one has dominated another, there's always an opportunity to catch up with them, and so we're going to be doing so. I'm guessing some of the other outlets have been all over Double G. You usually are on top of that more than I have been. Did you?
I haven't actually. There haven't been a lot of releases so far. I bet you we're going to start seeing that tomorrow. We're going to see the PDGA, and we'll see a couple of the other ones that are out there have Double G on there.
Well, nonetheless, congrats, of course, to Double G. We'll talk a little bit about the Masters Cup on the FPO and MPO side, so certainly congrats to him. But as I was saying a moment ago, we're really excited to have Dan on the show. Dan had an incredible weekend, and specifically his Saturday was better than anyone else's Saturday in the country. I think that's a fair way to put it. So I'm excited to talk to him. Yeah, exactly. Best Saturday ever. I think that's a VH1 show. No, what I was going to say is we're 248 in, and I still feel like I really need to concentrate on that opening line because it doesn't flow smoothly when you say SmashBoxxTV's podcast such and such. Like there's a lot of syllables there, and sometimes like I feel like
you could rearrange it.
I just said
podcast 248 of SmashBoxxTV.
I just said we're 248 in. I don't know if there's rearranging. My brain doesn't rearrange in that way.
As we get older, things start to solidify in our head,
Yes.
and change is very difficult, Terry.
It definitely is.
With a little practice, just like we're going to start working on our form pretty soon for golf.
Yes. That's where my concerns are. So, quick rundown of the show for what we're hopefully looking at. There is not going to be Dynamite tonight. We learned that actually just a little while ago. He's out in Colorado doing some work with Discmania. That will be the last mention of them until they sponsor our show. Now, he's out there doing some work with Discmania. We will then have Dan. He's going to join us a little bit. Dan's on the East Coast, or at least in the Eastern time zone. So we'll catch up with him before things get too late on his side. And then in talking with Dan, I've also got a few updates. Chuck Kennedy, of course, I had to reach out to him. We're going to talk a few numbers this weekend, and so all credit goes to Chuck. He's now sent me a little bit of information and updates just actually in the last few minutes, so we can further dig into what we saw from Dan this weekend. And I've reached out, albeit a little late, I've reached out to Steve Rico. He was also at the Masters Cup, and he was also crowned a champion. So if Steve Rico is available, we'd love to hear from him. He's had a pretty phenomenal season as well in his debut Masters season that he's been out there competing. He's got to
be the hands-on favorite for Masters Worlds, correct?
Assuming that's
he keeps
very generous of you.
Assuming he keeps up his current play, there's nobody that's been dominating the Masters like him. I'm not saying he's necessarily the best master out there, but if he keeps winning like this, I mean, you've got Barry and Johnny. Both those guys could step up at any given point. Emac.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Avery Jenkins could pop in there, even though he says he won't. But we know he probably won't. But he could.
He could. Well, there's something to be said about that confidence.
Patrick Brown, correct?
Exactly. So that's maybe a little bit of a long toss out there to reel him in for the night. But I have reached out. We would love to have him, and we know he's on the East Coast or West Coast, sorry, so that things might not be as late or as crazy. So Steve, we'd love to have you, buddy. Also, I'll do a real quick recap. I was at the Minnesota Amateur Championships that took place this weekend. I'll quickly run down that in a little while. That's a large-scale A-tier that takes place over at Kaposia Park, and would love to touch on that. So, yeah, I think that's most of what we'll see from the show, and then, as always, we'll catch up on any of the latest and greatest news, releases, gossips, things of that nature. And I'm less than 48 hours away or so from heading out west myself to arrive in Portland, PDX, as we're prepping for this weekend's Disc Golf Pro Tour stop. So
Portland Open.
Exactly what you would want and you're asking for when we talk about a West Coast swing. We see the players go out, play San Francisco. Of course, this weekend they move a little bit more north. Actually, technically, it's south, now that I think about it, by an hour and a half. Sorry. Still in Northern California. They head over to Masters Cup, and now they're going to venture truly north up to Portland. Then I think some players are going to have a weekend off. Many of them are going to take that next weekend off or lay low a little bit, and then the following weekend after that, still in the Portland area, Estacada, I believe is where it is, where we head over to the Beaver State Fling. So very, very cool and lots of good stuff. And in between there, the La Nina Open, where I know some of our top women are going to be competing, as they should be on that weekend in between Portland and the BSF, thanks to Chris and his crew.
Tonight, we're sponsored by Disc Member.
What?
Yeah, tonight's Patreon giveaway is going to be a Disc Member box, the monthly subscription service that you can sign up for about $25 a month. Every month, they send you a Disc Member box worth $50 minimum. That usually includes like a U-Disc subscription if you don't have one, a disc, towel, shirt sometimes, maybe gift certificates, stickers, all sorts of things, carabiners, bottle openers, whatever you can imagine. Disc Member has it, and they will ship it to you in a box. And tonight we're going to give away one of those boxes. Like I believe it was did we say the DD3 or the PD3? I
don't know. Be careful when you're throwing those around. I'm not sure.
There's so many of them. I believe it is it is a CD3. So struck out on all of them. The Discmania Swirly CD3 with exclusive Benjamin Hopwood design.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
We're also going to have a serious giveaway that you, hopefully some of you were already involved with last week when we had Kids Disc Golf on here. We were talking about bag tags that could be bought or purchased and other ways that you could support Kids Disc Golf along with their team. I went out, I purchased all 13 bag tags to support the kids, and I believe those are en route to me as we speak. I said I couldn't just pick one favorite, although I've met most of them at Junior Worlds or somewhere else. I couldn't pick one, so I ordered all 13 bag tags. And anyone else that had ordered bag tags, I believe since our show last week, is eligible. And with that, they're giving away, they're going to help us fulfill and give away an entire bag full of stuff that was talked about on the show. So I have to double check my email, but we're going to have a giveaway for that as well. So sounds like we're just Oprah here, just giving stuff away left and right.
No, not quite.
Huh. All right.
I mean, we like to give stuff away, but we're no Oprah.
All right. So I say he's on the East Coast. Let's open with Dan. We'll have a chit chat with him. And then after that, we'll dig into the rest of the scores. We'll take over where Dynamite is leaving the big hole in our heart here this weekend, and we'll have to do the work for him. But with that, I can make sure that we know Dan is ready to go.
Well, he doesn't have a choice. I'm calling him.
Yeah, now you are.
Whether he's ready or not, he's going to be on the show.
I think Lauryn Hill once said, "Ready or not, here we go." No, maybe not.
I mean, she did. The Fugees technically did that. But
was it Lauryn Hill or was it the Fugees? It's a Fugees song, but Lauryn Hill was singing it.
Well, yeah, that is the case.
All right. If Dan has his
It's just telling us a little network thingy here, so we're just gonna.
No, maybe not.
Maybe.
All right, and in other non-amazing updates, it looks like Steve Rico says he might not be able to join us.
Shocker! You were typing up the thumbnail. I literally pointed to the name Rico and was like, "Really? Like, do we want to sell that? Like,
you gotta
how many
cast
times?
the line out there enough times. One day you reel him in.
One day you get to reel in Rico. Best of luck with that.
Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, joined by the greatest Saturday ever, Dan Hastings. Dan, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Terry.
Glad to have you. Dan, we saw you. You have to jog our memory. Maybe you know better. Well, I'm sure you know better than our memory. We've seen you before having some stellar play, and I think back to maybe a Vibram Open, MVP Open, one of those, the Maple Hill Challenge, something like that. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yep. It was back at Maple Hill. I want to say 2015.
Okay, that sound about right. I remember you had a phenomenal round to get started, and we watched you go out and compete during the second round. Now, for those who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you normally play golf, that kind of stuff.
My name's Dan Hastings, originally out of Rochester, New York. I've been living in Buffalo for the last 4 years, or I guess the last 2 years. I moved down to Sophia, North Carolina, and that's where I'm living now with my wife, and I'm teaching in Greensboro.
Now, you said Sophia, North Carolina?
Yeah, correct.
What's that near for us with very limited North Carolina geography?
Pretty much halfway between Raleigh and Charlotte.
Oh, okay. So we all know disc golf, clearly a hotbed in that area. We've seen the World Championships take place down there, one of the largest worlds ever. Obviously, Rock Hill's not too far away. USDGC, Innova, all those, amazing venues and establishments. When you made that move from New York down to that area, was disc golf part of the consideration?
Oh, absolutely. The weather, the year-round tournaments, every part of it, just the courses, the level of competition. Yeah, when you think of North Carolina disc golf, those are all the reasons why it was a big push to be here.
Nobody really thinks of Buffalo disc golf.
No.
I mean, people think of Buffalo, they think 6.5 feet of snow, like 8 months out of the year.
Well, speak a little bit to the competition, and that's what I think. We grew up in Wisconsin, having someone like Barry Schultz and a few other names that came up and established themselves. Buffalo, as opposed to North Carolina, where I feel like there's just 1,000 rated players, on every other hole.
Yeah, I feel like Rochester and Buffalo, the whole Western New York area, really goes unnoticed. Rochester has the RFDO, which is one of, if not the longest running tournament in disc golf. But that region, I feel like just from the lack of 1,000 rated golfers in that area, it tends to keep those ratings down, where they have I feel like a lot of like the 980, 990 guys in that region could come out and compete any weekend. Whereas kind of down here, you know who's here to win. Where you have, Dickerson likes to come and spoil the fun sometimes. You got Barry every other weekend. So it's just, when you're going up against those guys who are some of the best to ever play the game, it's definitely a different mindset than if you're the favorite in the event.
Now, you're a teacher, right?
Correct.
Did I see in the headlines, was it maybe a year or so ago, were you nominated as Teacher of the Year? I apologize, I don't remember. Did you win or nominated or both?
Yeah. Actually, about a month ago, I teach for a charter school that's out of Detroit, Michigan. Ironically, not too far from where Discraft is now. But yeah, so it's actually a company-wide award where they recognize one teacher from each wing. So I was awarded the Excellence in Teaching for middle school.
Wow, awesome. Well, congratulations.
Middle school's
Thank you.
probably the hardest group of kids to teach. Would you say? I mean, at that point, there's so much happening with the kids. Everything from just hormones to growth to like opposite sex. I mean, there is so many distractions, I think, as a middle schooler. It's got to be the toughest 2 or 3 or 4 grades to probably teach.
Yeah, it has its challenges, but also I think it's one of the most rewarding grades to teach as well, just because you can have such an influence on who they're going to be as people at that age. So that's a big reason where I have the patience and energy level for it. So I love it. People say that, like, how do you do it? And I was like, I couldn't do any other grade level, really. So,
well, yeah, bless you very much. So I went just a week or so ago, I went on a field trip with my daughter's 2nd grade class, and to more than one of the teachers, I again thank them because I was there for one afternoon and that was enough for me. And one of them was my kid, and it still was too much for me. So any and all grades, obviously, we appreciate our teachers. So how in the world do you find that the time or the energy or the resources to do that, but then still, I'm just even looking at your PDGA history, you have 60, 70, 80 rounds listed as part of your rating. Your rating's 1017, very impressive in itself, but that's a lot of golf as well to be able to card 84 rounds, listed on your second to last ratings update even.
Yeah, actually going into the teaching profession, disc golf had a little bit of influence on that as well. Just because I got every weekend, every summer off. And really it's once this time of year, like once the days start getting a little longer, it becomes easier. Just because I do have that practice, I can get out after work. I got a set of baseball fields that's not too far from my house where I can go throw, baskets out in the backyard. So really it's just finding that little bit of half hour to get out, or the hour and a half, just to get as much practice as you can in throughout the week. But once summer hits, that's all I need to focus on. So
okay, and then my follow-up along those lines at school is, have you become like are you the official disc golf resource? Are you the disc golf guy at the school, or the disc golf teacher that is either helping lead the unit or helping during gym class or any of those types of things?
Yeah, actually, I was introduced to our middle school, actually school-wide, last year on our field day. I was able to get a basket and a bunch of discs for the PE teacher, and I kind of walked him through, what it looked like, and just basic grips and basic throws, just so the kids were, introduced to it, and more of a fun atmosphere rather than not training the next up and comers right now, but just so people are aware of it.
Yeah, at the introductory level, which is awesome, and I think we're and we kind of I think we're going to see it, that our players now and some of the kids that are getting introduced to it, and I know Jay Redding has even kind of referenced this, that we're seeing those kids that are getting introduced now are truly going to be our champions in 10 or 15 years, and they very likely are getting introduced to it at the school level. And to think that maybe we're just getting old, but to think that we're able to see, some of these players that came in that truly were like, yeah, my story is I got introduced to middle school. I skipped out on baseball and instead I opted to go play disc golf more frequently. Is that kind of crazy to see as it's becoming that much more accepted at the scholastic level?
Yeah, I think especially down in this region, like I just see the college level right now. Like just this weekend, I played with, Evan and Michael Jort, where they're both, junior/college age. And it's just watching that generation already playing in the open division. It's, the young competition isn't what it is when I was playing juniors.
Yeah, and me being at the collegiates for the first time ever. I mean, what a crazy experience that is, with all of those kids, with the school support, and the fact that they're able to take out the week or two that they are just to go to that event, and then what it's turned into. I mean, I think we're only going to see more growth on that end. So in the last year, I think we've seen a pretty large shift. A lot of our players moving from one sponsor to another. It seems like you were you were part of that overall transition. Talk a little bit about what went into that. You used to be with Prodigy, now you're sponsored by Discraft?
Yeah, just nothing but love for Prodigy still. Still have super strong relationships with the different team members, the owners and all that. I've been real close with Yuli pretty much since I met him. And he's just one of those people. There's not many people in this world that I'm closer with or have more trust in than him. So just kind of talking it over with him about that transfer and what this season was going to look like. It was really an opportunity that I couldn't say no to.
And what? Well, let's backtrack a little bit. When did you first get introduced to disc golf?
So that was actually kind of funny because as this whole weekend broke out, I was talking to my dad who's back in Rochester, and we were just talking how we started disc golf when I was 14, and we went to a local wooded course with chewed up dog frisbees. It was the ultimate frisbees we used to play with our dogs, and we went and played a few holes with that, and then we're like, we need to get the real thing for this.
And what were some of the first discs? This is truly one of my favorite questions, and I think it helps date a lot of our players, myself included. What were some of your first discs that you recall throwing?
So I also love this question because it tells a lot about why a player has a certain style. Okay. And mine was, obviously I go to the store, I'm 14, I want the coolest looking disc possible. And at the time that was a DX Viper.
Dang. Okay.
So wow. Now, I was all forehand for probably the first 7 years I played.
Well, the Viper, you almost have to be.
Yeah, especially in that day. Like when you're talking about, if you're buying a DX Viper at a store, in the heyday, now I know they're hard to come by now, but a DX Viper, that was one of the most overstable discs you could find out on the market, and that's why it probably worked better for your forehand.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Well, it's funny because I'm looking at your in the bag. Well, technically, what's in your bag? I don't know if I've seen another Discraft player with a Cyclone in their bag. You really bag a Cyclone still?
That's been phased out as
Dang.
I needed something that would go like 250 just perfectly straight for me. And until I got a zone that was beat in enough to do that, I was back. Prodigy, that and the Meteor were probably the last two non-Prodigy discs in my bag.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the meat and the potatoes of this weekend. You were competing. Why don't you set up the event before we even talk about the play? Set up the event, what it means to you or any ties that you did or didn't have to the event in the first place.
I think just in general, I won the event last year. So I was going in as the defending champ, which always adds a little bit more as to the approach to the event. But I was coming off probably my worst tournament in 2, maybe 3 years, at the Yadkinville Spring Shootout. I think I finished my last round was like a 950 rated round. Just one of those ones where you couldn't get anything going no matter what you tried to do. And really, I just went out to the course. I played with Phil Bartholomew and my wife Wednesday at the course. And again, like nothing felt right. Nothing was clicking. And it was to the point where a practice round was getting frustrating.
It was actually a 948, by the way.
Ouch.
I'm looking right
Johnny
now.
with the jab. Ouch.
That might also be a first. The biggest swing between
two back
150-point swing between events
in the upward direction.
In the good direction.
Yeah, that'd be that's got to be something to look into too.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it was to the point where like back in high school, like I said, I've been playing since I was 14. So back in high school and college, my wife and I would just go to the local courses and we would just throw, and it was fun. It was more of a relaxed setting. So that's what we did Friday. I'm like, hey, we're just going to go to the course. I'm just going to throw, get comfortable, and get to a point where I at least feel comfortable going into the event that I won the previous year. There was a couple changes. They had some wetland stuff going on the course, so they had to change. They got rid of 1 and 2. They added 4 new holes to make it a 20 20-hole layout. And it was one of those things where we just started playing, and I wasn't going on to the next hole until I had a putt for birdie. And just, it was a really fun, relaxed night where I feel like my game, it just clicked, mentally and physically. I just felt like I had all the shots for the course. And just kind of before an event like that, where every hole is twoable, but none of them are really, oh, here's a two. Like it's not a deuce or die course. So I was telling her, I'm like, I think if I can shoot 50 all 4 rounds, I would be really happy with that. So that'd be 12 down course par.
Okay.
So that was kind of the target. I'm like, hey, I need 10 twos and I want no fours. And I'm like, that'd be a good round. I'm like, but coming off of a 9, what'd you say it was, 47?
948.
48. Can't sell myself short on that point. Just coming off that, like anything near my rating would have been acceptable for me. But I told her, I'm like, hey, I want a great round this weekend. I want to do something special. And then the morning came around, I had a great card, and everything clicked.
Yeah. So getting into a 20-hole course, as you mentioned, kind of walk us through, and I don't need a recap of every birdie because we'll be here all night with all those birdies, but how were you feeling as things were clicking? Were you thinking about scores? Do you feel like, oh, I got off to a hot streak, or you noticed the streak or anything like that? What were you thinking as you were going through that first round?
Well, I'm someone who my putt always depends on like the first few holes.
Okay.
So the first hole, it's a jump putt downhill. It's the easiest hole in the course. And I hit right near the basket, and it skids down the hill to like a 25-footer. So I hit that putt, real confident putt, right where it needed to be. And then hole 2 is one of the more challenging holes on the course, and it's just straight downhill, and the basket kind of sits on a cliff. And if you go long, you're out of bounds. So, I throw the soft zone down there. It's a pretty straight sidearm shot. And I landed probably like somewhere between 35 and 40 short, just staring right down the hill at the basket. And, like I said, I was playing with a bunch of the young up and comers. I was playing with Tucker, Evan, and Jort. And I'm like, hey, you guys probably know I'm not known for laying up, but I'm not trying to take a 5 on the second hole. And then so I walk up to the putt, and the spotter, he goes, man, looks like you got to play for a 3 now. And I just kind of looked at him. I was like, you know what? I don't like the way that was worded. I'm like, here you go. And
what kind of spotter is?
Yeah, somebody's working you already.
Did the competition ask him to work the returning champ?
Yeah, no, it was one, like there was nothing,
sure.
malicious about what he was saying, but it's just kind of in my head. I'm like, right? I'm like, I really didn't want to lay it up. And then I hit that putt, and it was one of those ones where it was just 35-footer downhill death putt where if you miss, there's no way of it staying in bounds. So once I hit that, I'm like, okay, like my putt's on. Like I just had 2 good drives. And then the next hole, actually my buddy Jared, I didn't realize he snuck behind me, but he filmed it, and it was probably like a 65-footer. And once I hit that, again, another really solid putt, and I'm just like, okay, this day, it's going to be a good day. Like just those first 3 holes, none of them were park jobs. It was all like hitting good putts. And that's my game, is putting. So once my putt is on, it's one of those things where I didn't care about any tee shots. I'm just going to throw it, and wherever it lands, I told myself I was going to put it in.
So if you go back, and unfortunately we don't have UDisc at this event, but if you went back and looked at inside the circle versus, circle 2, circle 1 versus circle 2 putts, even in that generic of a sense, how many putts were in circle 2 or outside 10 meters that you made that during that round?
I would say at least 5.
Okay. So, and then obviously everything else just felt great. And do you feel like you got away with any? Was there any that are like, if that would have came out, I wouldn't have been too mad, or was everything dead center as you expected?
It was, yeah. I was kind of talking that afterwards. Like it was one of those rounds where you expect there to be a lot more luck than what there actually was. It really, like, there was no 50-50 putts where I'm like, like it was one of those things where there was never a putt that I had to question. So it just made once you get rolling, it's one of those things where it's like every putt felt easier. Like it didn't matter where I was. Like I'm like, hey, this Challenger is leaving my hand and it's going in the basket.
And that was going to be one of my next questions is what were you putting with? And is that what you've been using ever since you transitioned over from Prodigy?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of really stiff, slightly domey putters. And the CT Challengers are that. They're a special run. They're bright hot pink. They're like the photon glow ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I as soon as I switched, I felt one of those. Kirk Yo actually gave it to me at my last tournament of 2018, and when I felt it, I was like, "This is my putter." And the very next day, I went on I think it was Sun King, and I ordered like 5 more of them just so I had them.
Yeah, very nice. I know exactly how you feel. I was a big fan of those when I used to putt with those. And do you like them a little bit slick too, or no? Or do yours have a little more grip to them?
No, mine are slick. Most people that pick up my putters don't like them.
Okay.
Like I was telling you, my good friend Phil Bartholomew, he putts with them as well, and me and him are never fighting over putters. Like any of them that are super slick come to me. Any that have any sort of grip go to him. So
okay. I'm a slick guy myself.
Yes,
so I know what you mean. So I'm sorry. Did you say were there no par 4s on the course?
There were 2.
There were 2. Okay. So when it was all said and done, you birdied all 20 holes.
No, I missed hole 8 and I eagled 20.
Ah, okay. So I'm sorry. Did you say you started on 1 or no? Hole 1?
I'm sorry. I missed hole 9. It was hole 9 I missed, and yeah, we started on hole 1.
Okay, so you get them all the way through 8. Was there any relief? Was there a sense of disappointment on hole 9? I mean, at that point, you're feeling great. You're obviously having a great start. I mean, if you think you'd like to be 10 under and you're already 8 under through 8, and you miss one on 9, was it no big deal, or what was kind of your a relief? What was your mentality then?
Hole 9. It's funny when Schwebby was at the tournament and his response was, "What hole did you miss?" And I said hole 9, and he just started laughing.
Because it's so easy.
It's one that if you have a sidearm or a thumber, you should get 9 out of 10 times.
Okay.
So and the hole 7 is a super tricky. It's one of the trickiest 220-foot holes I've ever played. So I got that. Hole 8 is really the one to miss. It's a 300-foot, 320-ish to 360-ish uphill through the woods hyzer. Just to get the angle on it, like I throw a force on it. So it's just a really tricky line. And I got that one. So I'm feeling good getting all the ones that are questionable.
Yeah.
And then when I missed the routine one, it was just one of those like, man, that's the one that got you.
Well, and that's still pretty early in the round. If you started at 1, at what point, and what hole was the eagle that you got?
Hole 20, the very last hole.
Oh, okay, wow. So you went into the last hole at 18 under.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of pressure on that final hole? Were you thinking about the eagle for the quote unquote perfect round?
It was to start the round, it was like, oh, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Like I was doing that to myself. And then when I missed 9, I never thought about the score again.
Okay.
It was just, I knew I was playing great. I knew I was making every putt, but it never clicked to me like, hey, I'm birdieing everything. And then hole 20, I actually didn't know it was considered a par 4 until they put the score up that middle of round 2. It's like 450. It has a weird turn to it, and then it like kicks uphill into these rocks. But the line I play, it plays as a 450-foot hole. But if you try and play that weird turn, I can see how it's considered a par 4. But I kind of go over the corner, and it's one that I'm attempting to 2 each round.
Okay. So in your opinion, it's more of a soft par 4, but
yeah, it was one of the ones where I would definitely call it a really soft par 4.
So now I'm assuming at this point you see that at some point you see it's 20 under. I mean that's more birdies than that Macbeth feller. is getting out there. Where's your ESPN, expose
highlight reel.
Highlight reel, right?
Hey, that's the local B tiers for you. Not all of them are covered.
All right. Well, so which is awesome. What's the conversation like at lunch? First of all, what is your lead? How many is your lead after the round one? I think we can easily.
It was 11.
Okay, 10. So you had a 10-stroke lead after
10.
round one. What are you thinking in the park? What is the parking lot like? What's the chatter like? What are your nerves like? What are you thinking?
So what's really funny is on hole 16, that's probably, I take it back. Hole 16 is the hardest 2 on the course.
Okay.
So I throw it down there. As I'm walking down the fairway, I get a message from Schwebby. And
during the round.
during the round. So that's why I'm just like, usually I wouldn't check it, but I'm just like, we're mid-round. Like, I wonder what's going on. And me and Schwebby have a very tight, unique relationship. But that's another
it's Schwebby. We all
everybody has a special
relationship with Schwebby. Yes.
Yeah. He's referred to as Dad more than he's referred to as Schwebby.
Yeah. Okay.
So he sends me the message, so I open it, and he shows me a scorecard where he birdied the first 11 holes. He parred the par 4, and then he missed one other hole. So he birdied the first 11, then had 2 pars. The rest were birdies. And I knew I only missed 1 hole, and it took everything in me not to respond something smart back to him.
Yeah, sure.
I was about to, and I was like, nope, don't do it. Like, that's asking for the worst tree kick.
Disc golf karma. Yep.
So at lunch, the first thing I did is, since it's a new course, it's not on UDisc.
Uh-huh.
So the first thing I did was created a new scorecard, entered all those birdies in, and then sent it to him. I responded, I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then I sent him mine.
Nice. I love it. Right, hold my beer, Schwebby. Go ahead.
Yeah, but as far as I think I'm cutting out a little bit.
Oh, no, you're okay.
No, you're good.
Okay. So as far as like, never once did 1100, like, during that round, cross my mind. I just feel like that never happens at the local B tiers. So as perfect as I felt I played, like, people were talking about it, I was like, it's at least a 1070, 1080. I'm like, it was definitely the best round I've ever played in my life. And then one of our other friends, Mitch, comes up and he goes, nope, you're in the 1100 club. And then he just walked away. So then, we talked about it at lunch. But the scores didn't go in until we were on hole 11 of round 2. And, once someone suggested, like, hey, that could be an 1100, I'm hitting refresh every 5 seconds, just looking for it. Like, hey, I want to see it. I want to see it. And then when it came through, it was just one of those things where I felt like Superman for the rest of that round. From when I saw it was 11-11, I birdied every hole from hole 11, and I birdied out, and then so I birdied the last, 11 holes?
Yeah, 10, 11 holes, yeah.
To shoot a 44,
yeah.
just, only an 18 under, as opposed to the 20 under you had just shot for a 1090 rated round. So you went 11-11, 1090, averaged, what would they say, 1100.5? Is that exactly what I heard? And the single best day of a 2-round event, I'm assuming, is what I believe I heard, that Simon had done something like that at the Memorial, but it was back-to-back days. Mm-hmm. But yours was 2 rounds in one day, and making it a slightly more unique situation.
Yeah, so I was actually confirmed to me today, and it's marked as the highest multi-round day since ratings. So
okay, well, I'm gonna give you a few things to follow that. I did reach out to Chuck Kennedy, so of course we got to thank Chuck on all of this, and he gave me a few specific stats just before the podcast, of course, on almost instant turnaround. He said one thing to consider is that was on a 20-hole course, which arguably makes it, I think, more impressive that you shot 20 under and then 18 under. He says that won't change the rating, just the SSA category. Those 2 rounds are located in, which looks like it's under the 48 SSA range. So for those that don't know, when we see amazing rounds like this, they're broken up depending on the SSA, and I think there's 3 different categories.
SSA is more or less the difficulty of the course, what most would consider par, so to speak.
And then he went on to say, if the ratings hold up when they go official, his 11-11 will be second to Kenny's 23 birdies out of 24 round rated 11-17, and tied with Schusterick's score of 36 for 18 holes, also rated 11-11. So those are some of the details from Chuck Kennedy. And I said something about making it the all-time. I know, Johnny, you just mentioned that the greatest single day or multi-round, as you said, Dan. Second best. Oh, Simon, talking about Simon. Sorry, I'm just reading this for the first time. His 11-11 is tied for 7th when considering all SSA categories. So tied for the 7th highest rated round of all time when you put together all the varying levels of difficulties that you can find at a course.
And how difficult was it for you to switch to new plastic? To learn your new discs? And I think we've seen this year that the players who have switched to Discraft have not had that difficult of a time. I mean, we've seen 2 perfect rounds from them. I mean, if that doesn't sell the plastic, nothing will.
Yeah, what's your signature disc now? Come on.
Nothing in the talks yet.
There better be by the end of tonight, damn it. Let's go, Discraft. No, that's awesome. What would you say? We'll give them the full-blown plug here, but what would you say were kind of like your official go-tos? Like if you were making the commercial right now for your 11-11 rated round, I couldn't have, shot this today without, what would that be? 1 or 2 discs.
CT Challenger, Soft Zone, Big Z Force.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. What are we going to see from you the rest of the year in terms of touring and playing?
We haven't even finished the event yet.
Yeah,
there's 2 more rounds.
Okay, good call. You got more good golf to shoot, apparently.
He came out, and after that first day where what was that night like for you? What were you thinking your expectations were for the next day after you're sitting with, I think at that point, 15-stroke lead or something
18,
around those
20 strokes, yeah.
Yeah, it was, we had plans. We had a couple friends staying here for the tournament. We were out, backyard having a fire. And then I just started reading Facebook and just seeing people, like, it never thought to me like, hey, one of the highest rated days ever for a multi-round tournament. I think Sexton was the first one to comment that. Just seeing, Yuli shared it. Both Yuli and Germ, sent me messages, just, keeping it positive and encouraging. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I'd say the funniest comment, someone commented, hey, don't follow it up with a 950. And of course, my dad being my dad, definitely he comments on it. He calls me up. He goes, hey, what they said, don't follow it up with a 950.
No, oh, thanks, Dad. Not the encouragement. It's the, hey, remember the last tournament where you tanked at the end? Yeah. Don't do that, son.
Yeah. But no, it was awesome. Like everyone was super encouraging. Like you never had that person that, like everyone was just super happy for me, encouraging, and just like wanting to see more.
Did you hear from Paul Macbeth? Did he?
I haven't.
Okay.
What a chump.
Clearly he didn't like being shown up.
No.
18 versus 20, we know what's going on. Yeah. So round 3 and round 4, you come out, not only shoot above your rating, you shoot a 1042 followed up by a 1049. What are your expectations now going into a tournament?
Yeah, this stuff's easy, right?
So, it's one of those things where that course just set up well for me. Like I said, with that Friday practice round, I felt after practice I had a shot for every hole. And really Saturday, it was just I was worried about coming out and shooting a sub 1,000 rated round type thing. So I think just that it was brought to my attention so many times that I just made sure I went out and I tried to treat it as if it was a new tournament. And you can see Phil, who was in second, he pulled off, I think it was a 1050 rated round that round. So just having him on the card really kept me like, hey, like I'm treating this as if it's a new event, and we pretty much battled that round. It was fun. I think the hardest part was the last 5 holes of the 4th round. Just where everyone was kind of falling into their place already, where like first place was decided, second place was decided, third was decided, like everyone was separated by enough, where I knew I had my best tournament of my life going on right now. And I just really, like, I had double headphones in, music up, and just kind of trying to keep myself as focused as possible just to finish it out, and just so I didn't have that, that silly birdie or bogey to finish.
Yeah, well, it's got to be comforting when then it's all said and done. You've got a 23 stroke margin of victory, and like you were saying, Philip playing really great golf. He had 15 over third place. It'd be kind of ridiculous to see if you guys were playing some doubles out there. I think the rest of the world would be in trouble.
He didn't need to. And all I kept thinking is, when you were saying, you were just thinking it was like a new tournament. I'm sure everybody in that division was wishing it was a new tournament at that point, like to give them a chance. Wow.
All right. Well, since we're here, let's talk a little bit. How much did you get to, when you look at some of the other divisions, Schwebe out there, how many did you whoop Schwebe by? 20-some? What was that conversation like?
Me and Schweb make sure we let each other know when like I said, he sent me the 11 in a row as soon as it happened. So that tells you about our healthy trash talk,
Not too bad. And so Schwebe, Johnny, you want to read off a couple of the other winners that we saw out there, since we're talking about the event in depth?
The advanced winner, Blake Poland, shot a 30 under par. So he was only 35 behind you. The advanced women, Donna Stanley. Amateur Masters 50 plus was James Engelman. Intermediate, Alex Hohenstein. Recreational, Jeffrey Griffiths. And junior under 18, Misha Foster. So congratulations to all those winners.
So one thing that I want to, as we look at this, and this has been a stark contrast, I think, even from Wisconsin for at least the last decade, even longer. It's really, really common to see an event that is 2 rounds take place on a Saturday, and maybe a neighboring community will also have another tournament on Sunday that's a separate event that's 2 rounds, whereas North Carolina, for instance, has a ton of 2-day tournaments. And I'm not sure if they're slowly weaning off that, that logic or not, but in the past, they've always had a ton of multi-day tournaments. Your take on that? I mean, you're a busy guy. Everyone's getting busier these days. It's a big commitment as opposed to just playing one day. Do you have any take one way or another on that?
I know, especially this year, I know the NC Point Series is much bigger. So it's kind of just having those they feel like more official tournaments to me, at least. Mm-hmm. Just when it's multi-day, more than 2 rounds, where you see everything kind of balance out over the weekend. I personally like 2-day B tiers a lot more than a 1-day B tier or even a 1-day C tier. I feel like just my focus level is a little higher. And also that I find myself, like, if in a 1-day tournament, if you all of a sudden take one big number, you're out of it a lot more. It's more likely that you're out of it than if you have a 4-rounder.
Sure.
So just, I feel like the 2 days keeps you focused, keeps you playing your best golf in every hole.
Okay. Totally switching gears just for a moment. We see a lot of your friends, our friends, and the entire tour of our traveling professionals out on the West Coast. Do you keep track of what's going on out there, with the rest of the tour when it's on the other side of the country, like this weekend?
Yeah, I try to as much as possible. Tuning in, checking the live scores, and sending those those texts out to the the pros that I'm friends with and encouraging.
Awesome.
Do you have any plans come the summertime and when your job lets out? Probably, I'm assuming early June-ish is when most teachers, or late May. Do you have any plans to do any bigger touring, or are you going to kind of stay in your general area?
As of right now, I plan on hitting the Great Lakes Open and Idlewild again.
Nice. And then, how about Pro Worlds?
That's right when we start back up in August. So that's it's a week too late for me.
Okay. And it's interesting, as we've seen for so many years with Worlds taking place in the heart of the summer. And I think I heard way back in the day there was actually some of that consideration about summer plans, traveling, teachers, all those types of things. So we usually saw our Pro and Am Worlds right in the heart of the summer, and now on any given year they've kind of shifted around. We've seen it as early as
it's really flexible now,
June, and as late as September. So we'll see how that works out. End of the year, you're not too far obviously from USDGC and all that great action. Is that something have you qualified for that yet? And are you going to be trying to?
I haven't qualified for that yet.
Okay.
I haven't really looked into what the qualifier events are. It's one of those things that if I do qualify ahead of time, I'll try and get that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off.
Sure.
But if I don't qualify ahead of time, it's going to be pretty hard to do a Monday off and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in that week.
Do you at all, I don't know how well you know him or not, and I know he's on the other side of the country, do you at all relate to someone like Joe Revere or maybe even the Reddings, as they have a teaching background? Is there any other people we know out there that maybe you've either shared stories with or feel really relatable to with your profession and then still playing as a professional golfer?
The one that comes to my mind is just being from New York, Brinster.
Okay.
He's kind of similar. He plays a lot of regional events, and then he'll travel out to a few big ones each year just because of his work schedule.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And family.
Yeah, understandable, and it's great to see him out there. But like you said, he's kind of hit or miss on what we see, and sometimes he shows up on the big stage, and sometimes he's a lot more local. I know you've had plenty of battles with him up there on the East Coast, right, over the years.
I've been fortunate enough where me and him were about 5 hours apart.
Oh,
so when I was living up there, I wasn't the caliber golfer I am now. So anytime we met up, I was getting a free clinic.
Yeah, he's
handed out a lot of those.
Yes, he has, and scary to think that he too will be entering that Masters time frame in another year or so. I think he's like a year younger than me. Our birthdays are just a day off, but I think he's a year or two younger than me. So we'll that's going to be pretty scary. All right, Dan, before we let you go, I want any other additional shout outs or thoughts you want to share with us from a sponsorship side?
New this year was Ridge Roller Custom Carts. Absolutely love it. The thing's a tank, so I don't need to be easy on it and worry about anything falling apart. And obviously Discraft, this year's been awesome. Just the opportunities they've given me and support they've shown me, especially just within the last 2 days, just after that, just the amount of support I've been getting.
Awesome. Well, we're going to let you go. We appreciate you joining us. It's great to hear the story. I know I kind of jokingly opened saying, well, Double G's off winning NTs, but not every day are we seeing people, throw down 1,100 rated days over multiple rounds, and it's an awesome story. And even the extra insights and the stories with Schwebby and the locals, it's awesome to hear, and just listening to you overcome challenges and struggles from the event before or even the night before to prep up and to have the day that you did. It's really great to hear it, and we're glad we could share it.
Have we ever had Schwebby on as an actual guest?
Yeah, we won't now.
No,
we don't need to.
We've got Dan.
Yeah,
there's one more thing you can stick it to him if you want.
I'm sure he'll be in the comments somewhere.
Yeah, right where he belongs. All right, Dan. Last shot. Anything else for us, buddy, before we let you go?
No, it's getting late. I got to deal with middle schoolers in the morning.
Bless you.
Yes, God bless you. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. We appreciate your time, as do all our Smashies, and we'll see you out on the tour somewhere this year.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep,
Thanks, Dan.
Take care. See you, Dan. All right. Again, Dan Hastings with a heck of a Saturday.
He's one of those names, as we've said, that when Dana usually does his reviews, you'll hear his name. Oh, he won a B tier, he won a C tier, he took second at some A tier or B tier, whatever. You always hear his name. I don't know if I've ever actually been able to put a picture, a face to the name before.
That's because you hang out in the basement, and I go out and meet these amazing humans. But I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome to hang out in the basement.
No,
if you'd like.
I don't want to look at your face anymore.
I would leave. I could go places. That would be fantastic.
No, I hear you. He's. I've watched his game now for at least 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. It was prior to, I know we opened by talking about Maple Hill a few years ago live. I've seen him play in a number of places. He's got obviously a solid game, and then to go out and perform to that level and to follow it back up. I mean, I don't know what he had for breakfast. We didn't get there, but whatever was clicking, like, I don't know how superstitious you need to be, but whatever he did, you would love to duplicate that day. Pretty impressive.
I don't even. I was thinking about his second day,
being the follow up
to the 1100 day. And I made a joke with Dana saying, clearly he slacked and he only averaged around 1045 or whatever it was. But just the pressure, the mix of pressures. I mean, there's a relief because at that point, you've probably pretty well got that event locked up. You have to think at least, I just have to not come out and tank it. Yeah. And I've got this event won. So there has to be some relaxing in there. But there has to be a little added pressure to know, my name has been splashed all over the internet. Everybody is going to be watching what my follow-up scores are going to be. I have to put in the effort. I can't coast in with 10-10 rated rounds. I mean, you could, but it would look a little goofy, and there might be a little snicker here and there. So to come out and still shoot those 1040, 1050 rated rounds, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Wow, very impressive to see and to hear about. I'm not sure if it might have been Yuli, as Dan was talking about. It might have been a post from Yuli that kind of drew my attention to it on Saturday when I first saw it. And the way it spread around, and even just to have that follow up on that afternoon the way he did, and it's maybe it was a blessing, and that was something I had on the tip of my tongue. Maybe it was almost even a blessing that at lunchtime they didn't know for sure what it was rated. There maybe was a little less chatter about it because it was not even uploaded, so to speak, until he was out in the middle of that second round.
Do you think his card mates, and I was trying to put myself in that position, are looking at the scorecard? Couple situations. One, if he's shooting like this and I have the scorecard, first of all, I'm not changing it up. Personally, I'd rather watch the guy dominate and instead of maybe throw something off, whether it's superstition or what, and hand him the scorecard. I would keep it. But do you think the guys in this group are looking at it like, does he know? Like, kind of peeking down, maybe looking at each other like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I think that these guys are all pretty tight-knit.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're talking about a lot of the regional events, and usually these people know each other, sometimes relatively well. Yeah, they may or may not have had any reaction to it. I mean, I think when you see anyone start off that hot and they're just simply getting it done, it's always cool to think, oh, wow, yeah, so-and-so is playing really well today. Whether or not they're making a conscious effort to actually think about the scores or how many you've strung together, we all know this is a pro tip for the day. And it just goes, it goes with saying, anytime someone is shooting well, and I'm going to go ahead and say this isn't even just a superstition, it's just a general courtesy.
It's courtesy.
Don't tell someone how well they're doing. Usually the actual number or referencing, hey man, that's 9 birdies in a row, keep it going. You don't need to tell someone that. They know when they're playing well. Mm-hmm. Just keep those comments in your head. Not that you feel like you're working them or even attempting to, and it may not faze them either. Just sometimes you do, just like the guy that's bowling for the final, that needs to close out the last 3 strikes.
He knows.
He's damn well aware of what's going on there. So just let him do his thing.
The most you should probably say is after he hits a putt or something, high five, keep it up.
Yeah, nice putt.
Nice putt. Keep it up, man. That's it. Don't say anything about score. Don't say anything about birdies.
If you just get these last 6,
don't start telling them about. Oh yeah, yesterday I birdied this next one too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let them play. Just do it. And we have a friend of ours right now who's screaming at our podcast in all enthusiasm. Yes, and he might send it over to another buddy of ours. But
yeah,
but ultimately, just be cool. High fives. Give him a fist and say good job.
And to be fair, conversely, when someone's got 6 bogeys in a row, you don't need to point that out either. Like, oh man, sorry, that's your 6th in a row. Like they don't, they're also well aware. And oh man, that sucks. You followed up that bogey with a double and a triple. Like, no, they don't need to be reminded of that. Again, it's just courtesy. Is the best way that I would word that. Don't bother. They're well aware. And if they're not aware, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and let them be in their own world. That's fine too.
Alexis brings up a good point. I think it depends how close you are in score, maybe. Do what you got to do to win. Me personally, not my style, but if I was within 1 and I really, really wanted to win and I didn't really care how I got there, then I might say something like that, but I couldn't. It'd be tough for me to do it. Maybe to a buddy. If it was a close friend and it wasn't a tournament, hands down, I'm doing that. Not an event.
I think I've only competed in 1 event this year. That was in Thailand.
I got 2.
And I maybe told the story already, maybe not. But we were on the final hole of the tournament, and the gentleman who lives there. Everyone's kind of walking up. We're walking up to the final hole of the tournament, and there's some kind of chatter about it being really close, and something along the lines of was said of, oh, it's really close. I'm like, yep. And then someone, I believe the gentleman had said, well, do you want to know where the scores are? And at this point, I'm thinking we're tied for the lead. And I said, no, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know because it's a birdie that you have to get. It's 200 feet. It's a relatively routine short shot. And I said, no, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know. I know it's close, I think is what I said. He goes, okay, I'm winning by 1.
That's cold. I kind of like it.
It's fine. It's fine because to me, no matter what happened, whether I was tied with him, like I thought I was, or whether he had me by 1, which it was the case, I needed to birdie that. That's all I know. I need to birdie that. It's a must-get birdie. It's 200 feet. It's a little touchy shot. No matter what, I need the birdie in any situation.
But by being down by 1, depending on where third place is,
do I go at the ace run?
That's what I'm saying. Like if it's a 240-foot shot or whatever it is that you have a relatively clear line at, maybe you run it a little harder.
Maybe
being down by 1, thinking it'd be awesome to if I'm down by 1, get an ace and push it into extra holes or something along those lines. I can understand it because we did talk about this with Sarah Hokum, where she has now I think twice notoriously laid up on a shot that she needed to go for.
Sure.
And being aware of the scores, especially I think with 1 or 2 holes to go, is usually in your best interest. Now, depending on what you're shooting at, what you're shooting for, if no matter what you're thinking, I'm just going to get a birdie here, I can't ace it, then maybe it doesn't matter. But if it's an ace run, I said the same thing when, just a couple weeks ago when it came down to the last hole and I was against a friend of ours, Mike Newhouse, and he looks at the score and he's like, can I see that scorecard? And I said, sure. I said, do you want to know where we're at? Because I knew we were literally tied going into that hole. And, I parked it within 2 feet of it. And he knew right then that he has to birdie it. And thankfully he did as well. And we went to extra holes. But knowing those situations is, quote unquote, a pro move. You almost want to.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that someone shouldn't know for themselves. It was funny for me how the interaction unfolded when he had said that. And I guess to be in his defense, I didn't explicitly said, no, do not tell me. I think I said something along the lines, well, it doesn't really matter. I know it's close. I think I might have said, I think I know where we're at or something like that. But I was trying to give the impression that I didn't really care to hear it because in my head, it was good enough for me. And he said, okay, I'm leading by 1. And he was so matter of fact about it. It was truly funny. So anyway. All right. So in other news, I think
some guy won an NT.
Yeah. Double G getting it done. Congratulations.
It wasn't 1100 rated.
No, but I certainly, to recap from the beginning of the show, in no way, shape, or form have I tried to downplay whatsoever Double G's win. Congratulations. Solid performance out there. And in all seriousness, a little surprised that it has taken this long because he is so good. And that was 100% the intent of
He's
my
been
compliment.
on the tour for 12 or 13 years. Took a couple years off in those. Came back 2 years ago, or was it last year? I think it was last year was his first year officially back on tour. And almost like he didn't skip a beat.
Yeah. Well,
when you have those kind of skills, your floor is a lot higher than most people's ceilings.
Yeah. So very cool. And also, and we'll get well. Let's start on the men's side. Go ahead. I was going to say we'll get to the. I want to shout out to Katrina and her solid victory,
of
but
course.
on the MPO side.
We'll start down in about 10th place. Jeremy Colling kind of making an appearance. We haven't seen his name up near the top recently, so congratulations, Jeremy. James Conrad, who's been in the talks a lot lately. Eagle Win McMahon having a rough final round. It dropped him down to tied for 6th. I believe he was, for a while, I think he was on the lead card in the final round. Paul Macbeth tied with that, along with Paul Ulibarri, all of which at 16 under par. Eric Oakley shooting a 1080, his highest rated round ever, I believe I heard, to jump him up like 12 or 17 spots, something along those lines, to get into 5th place. Kelvin Heimberg, Ricky Wysocki, Simon Lizotte, names that we've been hearing all year long, so they're kind of just maintaining what they've been doing. And the name at the top, no surprise, no spoilers, no nothing. Double G. Garrett Gurthie. The guy who, I was thinking about this, if you were to probably take the top 20 players and say, if you can't win, who would you like to see win? I bet you 50% of them say Double G, if not more. He is infectious with his smile and his laugh. He's always positive, it feels like. I mean, everybody has their off days, but he's always in an upbeat mood. The guy is just such a nice guy, as everybody on tour will say. The only other person I could think of that someone might say might be Manabu. Like, if I'm looking at just the top 20 right here, someone says, oh, it'd be really cool to see Manabu get one here in the mainland. You know, but other than that, Double G, hands down, everybody, when he won, you could see how happy everybody was, congratulating him on different interviews and social media. Just an all-around stand-up guy, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. $5,000, Double G, shot a 1060, a 1056, and a scorching 1072 on the golf course. Everybody kind of, I wouldn't say wrote him off, but he's not the guy most people would pick for a woodsy course.
Well, specifically, obviously, when he put himself into that position, he had done it on, regular day law. Now, if you said, okay, we're 2 rounds in, we've played the golf course 2 rounds, and we're either going on to day law or we're going to play a 3rd round on the golf course, I don't think anyone would bat an eye. No one would think twice. No one would even hesitate for a moment with any kind of surprise for Double G. But to then go back and drill down and say, oh, yeah, they played Dela, regular Dela for the first 2 rounds, then there might be a little bit more surprise. And I was thinking about this as I was consuming at a long drive home from Minnesota myself, and I thought, Double G, loft putt with hyzer. That sounds like a recipe for disaster at De La. I mean, it honestly sounds like it. Now, unless the bottom, your lofting hyzer putt finds the basket every single time, then no big deal. But think about Double G's putt, and I know I didn't see it, but I believe he struggled a little bit in Arkansas. And you think about how he's always putted with a little bit of loft, somewhat gentle, and with a fair amount of hyzer to it. Again, that sounds like a disaster out at De La, but clearly, if he just kept finding the basket and the bottom of the basket, then it doesn't seem to matter. So kind of funny when you break it down. You want to say, like, you think about the tendencies or the knowns or the givens or the probables. That's not the recipe.
No,
but it doesn't matter.
In some pretty cruddy conditions.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw Jomez post that this was the single worst round of rain. Maybe not the hardest, but just constant.
Yeah.
I think it was the second round that they went through. And one of my thoughts was, okay, kind of similar to what we saw with Avery in San Francisco. I was thinking, well, if the weather's really bad, nobody's probably putting well. It levels the playing field because Double G has been known to have his putting issues. He's either on, or if he's a little off with that hyzer putt, he's just off. And you can watch him miss 20-footers, 30-footers, 40-footers, 50-footers. But then I go back and look at some of his rounds. He dropped in a couple 60-footers, or a 60-footer, a couple 50-footers, 38-footer, 27-footer. I mean, of course, he had a bunch of ones where he was scrambling and parked the hole. They have the 5-foot, which is usually anywhere between 5 and 12 feet. He just shot really well. He threw in a 60-footer on the final day, a couple 27-footers, 38-footer. He was clearly on. His putting helped him out quite a bit, as opposed to what a lot of people would say is maybe one of his Achilles.
Yeah, well, and looking as you scroll down and look at UDisc, thank you, friends over at UDisc, Matt and Josh, I only see 2 blemishes on the entire weekend.
Yeah, 2
Looked
bogeys.
like he took a bogey on hole 11.
Both rounds.
Well, clearly hole 11 had it out for him.
Hole 11 is broken.
Yeah. So, yeah, 2 bogeys on the weekend. Please tell me that is first. Ian, as you look at some of his stats.
I don't know if they actually have like bogeys.
Oh, come on. Where's the bogey count?
The bogeys list. He was first in birdies, though.
Wow. Okay.
So
congratulations, and it sounds like another great weekend out there at Santa Cruz. Certainly missing that West Coast swing, and glad to be picking it back up this weekend as we head to Portland. And then, like I said, up to Beaver State right after that. All right, what did we see on the FPO side of things, Johnny?
Wow, the FPO side of things. So, once again, we saw Katrina Allen kind of run away with this event. She won by 7 strokes over Paige Bjerkes and Paige Pierce and Sarah Hokum, who all tied for second place at 5 over par. Katrina was the only one under par. She shot a 975, a 1010, and a 991 to win $2,000. Fifth place was Madison Walker, who's been shooting very well lately. And then we see kind of the usual suspects: Rebecca Cox, Elaine King, Jen Allen, Camilla Squire maybe, and Erica Stinchcomb. So we're seeing a lot of the same names up in the FPO field, up in like that 3 to 7 range, 3rd to 7th place. They're all kind of recycling, shifting, but ultimately they can't get past Paige and Kat.
Yeah, well, and I just did some quick math out there. I didn't even need Chuck for this one. When I find the average on the weekend, that's 992 for Katrina.
That ain't bad.
That's
good living.
Damn good golf
yes.
out there for Katrina Allen. So clearly playing really well. Congratulations to her. And like you said, just a little bit of a cluster of everyone else trying to chase her, and well off the pace at that. I mean,
correct. It does not surprise me to see. I was thinking about this, to see Paige Bjerkes up in second. Not only is she a good golfer, but I think De La really, to me, feels like it suits her game. She loves to throw putters. She loves to throw slower discs off the tee. She's not super aggressive, and I think that's something that will keep you in the hunt at De La. And if she can get her longer game down, she can throw pretty well, but it doesn't feel like she really pushes that very often. She can do it when she needs to, but ultimately she tends to take the safer approach. So no surprise to see Paige Bjerkes up there in second. And Paige Pierce is, I mean, she's Paige. That's just the way it works. You know, when you say Paige, you're not talking Bjerkes, you're always talking Pierce. Sorry, little Bjerkes. But, and if I look at UDisc, I believe Paige Pierce was all over the map as far as her typical OB. I think she had a ton of OB strokes. Yeah, she had wow, 1, 2, 3.
Well, during that first round, I think if you look down at the bottom, there's even a little, nope, go up right there. See those little triangles?
Yeah.
You can just count those.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. It does.
Or there's a category
5,
at the end that says OB throws.
Oh, yeah, if you add those up. 6. Paige had, thank you.
Yes.
Paige had 6 OB strokes. Paige Pierce had 6 OB strokes. And it looks like, yeah, Paige Bjerkes had 2. And Katrina is sitting with, and there, I don't know if there's a ton of OB, 2 for Kat as well.
2 for the weekend, yeah.
2 for the weekend. So that's
I think there's plenty enough on the golf course.
On the golf course.
It's a little harder to find, so to speak, relative out on the regular course, but on the golf course, I think there's plenty of OB to find out
on the
there.
regular course. You're more than likely gonna, if you're gonna take a penalty stroke, it's probably because you're re-teeing or rethrowing from your position after your disc gets daylight and goes 170 feet down a cliff. But ultimately, I think if Paige Pierce can clean up some of those OB strokes, she'll be competing with Kat a little closer than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But ultimately, Kat has just been playing almost flawlessly.
Yeah, great golf. Great action out there, and some pretty significant payout. I think I saw all 3 of the women that were tied. Each took home $1,100. And Kat took home, what did we see on there, Johnny? I'm sorry.
2,000.
I was looking at your, okay. So she took home 2,000. Not a bad weekend out there for her. The one other thing to make note of, as I was just looking over your shoulder at UDisc, is seeing that how drastic that one hole was for Paul McBeth on the men's side was. What was it, hole 3 or 4? I was looking at just a few moments ago.
Yeah, hole 3, he took a 7 with 2 OB strokes.
Yeah, that is not my pro tip.
Circle 2 putts, which you rarely see a 2 in that line, that you have 2 circle 2 putts, which means he hit and probably rolled back out of bounds. Because if you're circle 2, you're not blowing by a putt to the other side of circle 2. Almost the only way you can get that is a hit and roll. So clearly, hole 3 was it was rough for Mr. McBeth.
Either it had his number or he had its number. I don't know how you want to word that, but
yeah,
just thinking, like, as I look at that, and woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you could say this about every single player on the course. You know, Jeremy Colling had a 7 on hole number 12. You know, when I look at that 4 strokes that he gave up to some of his competitors, as opposed to James Conrad, who had the 3 on it, you think those 4 strokes in such a tight battle, you go from a 15 under to a 19 under, and all of a sudden you're in a tie for 3rd. McBeth, same thing. You know, and again, every tournament can say that, every player can say that, but rarely do you see someone of, you know, like a caliber of someone like a Paul McBeth carting a
triple bogey.
Yeah,
two triple bogeys during this event.
Yeah, so
hole 3 and hole 7.
Kind of crazy to see out there. Matt Bell had a solid open. I think he fell off a little bit as the weekend went on, but he certainly had a solid open. I'm not sure what happened on the golf course, but just looking at his scores, hole 3, you know, at one point, he had a 7-stroke, seven holes in a row with a bogey. Holes 7 through 9, he bogeyed every single hole.
That's rough. What round was that?
That was during the 3rd and final round. He dropped 12 spots. He was in a tie for 2nd. And maybe
I'm
some
surprised
of you
he only dropped 12 with as tight as these fields are.
Yeah, and maybe some of you are screaming, saying, "Yeah, we watched it." I did not get a chance to.
I haven't had a chance to watch it
so I'm not sure how
today.
it all went down, but that definitely sounds rough. So too bad for Matt Bell out there after having such a great start. Very, very cool.
Well, Darren says Macbeth got daylighted so bad on Saturday.
Oh.
And let's put it this way. Maybe the course was storing it up after the last couple of years of Macbeth slapping that course around, that it just got him all in one year, and we'll see Macbeth go pretty solid the next couple of years again. I mean, if he does this once every 5 years, I mean, whatever.
What did you think? And I'm clearly not claiming to be a genius or anything, but what did you think of the little clip I pulled from last week's podcast here, where we were talking to Ricky and we said that, you could shoot a 10 down one round and then follow it up with a 2 over the next. So to have a 12-stroke swing, and Ricky from first round to second round had a 13-stroke swing, and Paul Macbeth had a 14-stroke swing from round 1 to round 2. That happens, again, on no other course.
Very few other courses would you ever see that happen, and it's just what happens on that course. It is, as Ricky was saying, if you put this course on any other tournament, I think that you might get some frustrated players that are going to complain about it. But because of the history, it is taken in, and it is just said, that's Daylaw. That is Daylaw. That is what you get. And we do it with a smile on our face after the round. Probably not during the round, but after the round. And you think, oh, yeah, man, that course got me. It got me here, it got me on this hole. And that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It sucks, but that is typical of that course. And it is nice to me. I always think about the tour as a whole, the Pro Tour, the NT, how it goes from typically your crusher, wide open desert courses early in the year to the West Coast swing you get to. Well, I mean, first you have to go through GBO, which is
in Texas, and GBO, which is
still kind of more open courses, a lot bigger throws usually. But now you get to the West Coast courses, which you get like Daylaw, you get Milo, depending on what you do now this year, Portland, and then now we're starting to move back east. We have such a variety of courses that if all of our courses were all like Daylaw, there would be so much complaining that it's so random and lucky and this and that. But you put just one of those type of courses in the tour, I'm cool with that. Just like I don't mind the early courses where everyone's like, oh my God, this is such boring golf, where everyone just throws far and hyzers. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, because it's going to get evened out.
As long as it's in isolated. Cool, we have our section of the tournament of the year that's like this. Let's let these big arms get warmed up, and we'll move on to some other courses. We'll see how they play at the wooded courses, and we'll see how they play at the park-style courses. We'll see how they play. There's such a variety on our tour now that I don't mind having these customized or specialized courses, might be a better term to put it.
Well, this weekend, things should remain exciting, of course. We're heading over to Portland, a place that we haven't seen competitive disc golf of our elites best, and now or our sports most elite, however you want to word that,
since 2014.
Since 2014's Worlds. 2014, we of course saw the epic playoff, arguably one of the greatest playoffs I've ever seen in disc golf, between Macbeth and Wysocki. Of course, Macbeth winning that one, and then watching Katrina Allen crowned for the first and now currently only time, which even surprises me to these days, as our world champion on the FPO side. Ken Climo crowned on the MP40 side at the time. But we haven't seen competitive, high-level disc golf at the Blue Lake course. Now, of course, they're having tournaments there and doing all sorts of great things out there. But to now have all of the spotlight be placed on Portland, super excited. It's a new event for the Pro Tour. It's a TD and Jeff Spring, who obviously has a pretty hefty resume of running things over at Smugs and at the Green Mountain, of running Pro Worlds last year. So we're going to be there, and I know Zoe Yandyke and Dustin Keegan and Nate and Val Doss, along with Bevel, are all going to be part of it. So really looking forward to heading into Portland this weekend. it sounds like the course is pretty much the same. I'm excited because I haven't stepped foot on that property. I was talking to Nate Doss the other day, and I said something to him about there and Worlds finishing there. He goes, T, last time I saw that place was 2014 Worlds. So it's going to be exciting to go back to see, has the course evolved in any way in terms of difficulty or challenge. I feel like it was pretty well established, but how are players of today versus even 5 years ago, how they're going to be attacking it and what's going to be possible?
Well, for those of you that do want to take a look at that, you can always watch Worlds, or we've got the battle at Blue Lake, which you can watch as well, which has, I believe, Climo and Rico, Yuli,
and Doss.
Right? Thank you.
Or was Climo?
It was Climo and Rico and Yuli, and it might have been, was it Felberg maybe? Maybe it was Felberg.
No, it was Doss.
Was it Doss? Okay. So either way, go take a look at that if you want to see how some of these guys attack the course. That was much more of a one-off style event.
Exhibition matchup.
An exhibition matchup. So go ahead and go take a look at that and see how that fits. I honestly haven't watched that. That was the first year we were streaming. I have not watched that footage since we've done it. So if you do go and watch it and it sucks, just give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, that was our first year.
That was our very first year of streaming.
Probably one camera. For sure one camera.
For sure one camera.
That was 2014, which was the year that SmashBoxx began. And in addition to that, we were not the live coverage option for Worlds. That was still Disc Golf Planet.tv. And we just basically said, well, I'm going to be out there filming and I'm going to be doing stuff. We're still trying to get our feet wet with learning how to do this live broadcasting stuff. So let's put together this exhibition matchup before the event. And at the time, it was very well received. We had minimal hiccups, I recall. I mean, things didn't go perfectly by any means, but we had minimal hiccups. And it was really exciting. And there's always the option of seeing if you guys would like more of that stuff. I think that's something that could be and should be explored by us at SmashBoxx.
More exhibition style events is what you're saying.
And come up with crazy rounds or matchups, or maybe it's a series, or that could be all channeled into something. We're not sure, but
no Doss. I didn't think so. It was Macbeth, Yuli, Climo, and Rico.
Oh, okay.
So we basically primed Macbeth for his championship.
Yeah, gosh, that was nice of us. And Climo. Yeah, and Rico was in the hunt for quite some time at that, and so was Yuli. I did a really great interview. I remember Yuli was so vivid and candid and raw with me at that time. It was that was a great Worlds to take in for sure. So
a few people out there asking about the live setup this weekend and the booth. We're still working on some details as far as the booth, but Terry will be in the booth. I believe we're going to be doing some split action with you and the Dosses, so you'll probably be joining Val for FPO and Nate for MPO if everything goes swimmingly. And the booth will be somewhere in Portland. We're still working on that. We've gotten a couple ideas, but we're still trying to nail that completely down. Yeah,
so exactly as you're saying, it will be. This will give a really good opportunity. It's funny when we were talking, I talked to Nate just a few days ago, and he said, with us being so heavily involved with Bevo, they're actually doing a special beer release just for this weekend. It's also the first time they've ever canned beer, and they're going to have a release. It's going to be kind of a very limited release that they're doing. And then Bevel is a huge supporting partner and sponsor of the event. And he said, well, you're in the booth, for instance, in the morning, and you're in the booth calling the shots mid-morning with Val. I'll be over there working the Bevel tent, and then they'll basically flip-flop for the afternoons. So there's no break for those guys. There's no calming down or taking it easy. I had said to Nate, well, we'll if I get in there, that might change things up just for a weekend. It'll also give you guys a little bit of a break from one another, from having to call the shots. And like, no, we're good with that. We're just hitting our stride. But I think it'll just be kind of I don't want to say a breath of fresh air, but it'll be just a way to change things up.
It'll be a nice change up, because I think you have a different style than with almost every commentator that you tend to pair up with, whether it's Dixon, McCall, or whomever it is, or Doss, as we've seen in the past. So I think it'll be good. It'll be a little bit different than what we're used to seeing with Nate and Val. having you and Val or you and Nate. It'll just be a different dynamic, and whether that is taken well, we don't know, or taken poorly.
I make no promises.
No, that's one thing about Smashbox. We don't make promises.
Yes, we're gonna keep that bar set low. But we are looking forward to it. Should be a great time. What's really another really unique component to this weekend, if you haven't already marked your calendars, and I'll still probably be confused in 2 or 3 or 4 days from now, we're covering the event as it's taking place on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Just incredibly unique situation that, we've never really been in that position before, to be broadcasting here on Monday on Memorial Day. So the event is played Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Of course, those are the days we're covering it, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we're going to be out on the West Coast. So check your local listings on DGP Facebook.
I believe they are releasing a media schedule. If it didn't go out today, it's going out tomorrow.
So,
but you guys all know the live media schedule, and that's all you care about because that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
It's always 9 a.m. local time for women and 3:30 p.m. local time for men.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. So hopefully, just really looking forward to it is what I can say. And Ryan Pilcher's on the board giving some compliments. And Ryan, I'm gonna publicly thank you. Ryan had reached out to me just today on Facebook and said that he could be available to be a helper or assistant of sorts when we get to something like Pro Worlds this year. Sometimes just having an extra set of hands or feet, in this case, running around doing some things to help out the broadcast can go a really long way. And he graciously reached out to me on Facebook just today and said that he would be able to make himself available. So we appreciate that, Ryan, and all the support that you give us, along with so many of you others. Speaking of support, quickly, I want to touch on, did we see a few people getting all giddy and excited? They're wearing their after show T-shirts. I hope has that happened?
It might have happened.
Oh,
I'm not so sure.
Yucky.
Oh yeah, you're getting it right
no,
there. Ooh, I was
no.
gonna save it for the after show, but you brought it up.
There it is. So those were exclusively, it's a Smashbox exclusive. Those are exclusively available to our Patreon supporters that were at that, $10?
The $10 clothing level. So $10 basically a month will get you this particular shirt. And you had to have been signed up in January. So you had to do the first quarter. Now we've started a new quarter. We'll do another shirt come March, April, May, probably at the end of June, if I can do all my math right.
Sure.
And we'll get another one out. And so this first shirt literally just went to patrons. It will never be sold anywhere else.
Never.
We ordered no extra. That's not true. I have 2 extras upstairs, one for Terry, and then probably one for my wife. But that's it. This is the only run I'm going to make of it. It'll never be sold like this again, just because it was something we wanted very special. The next shirt, we may order extras and sell it. We may not. I haven't even decided which shirt it's going to be yet. And I want to give a shout out to Tim Courts for the design. Much appreciated on that particular aspect. So for those of you that have signed up recently in the last month or so, you are clearly eligible for the second quarter shirt. And we'll get that figured out. And when that comes, shout out, huge shout out to Miles at Paragon, who I send him the design and he does all the fulfillment. He mails it out. He obviously bills us, but he picks out the shirts. I told him we got a couple guys that want XLTs, which are the talls like myself, and I wanted something soft. So he picked out the shirt. It is, my wife looked at it and she's like, that's an extra large because it is really long for being everything. I don't know if I've ever seen an XL shirt this long that didn't say XLT on it. So shout out to Miles for getting everything set up. And my wife ordered a shirt today she got a shirt from Radio Milwaukee, which is a local radio station that she does some donations to. And it is the exact same style shirt, same manufacturer. She said, "Oh, I love this manufacturer shirt. It's super soft." And I said, "Oh, who is it?" She shows me the brand. And I said, "Oh, that's exactly what this one is." What is it?
Canvas and then Bella,
Canvas.
which is what I've been working with Miles for a lot of years, just like that, and I always order super softs.
Yeah, they're really soft and comfortable. So my wife was like, "Really? That shirt is like that?" And I said, "Yes, you can probably have one as as something to wear at night, because I can't imagine her wearing it during the day because it is very long and large on her, as we ordered a couple extra larges." So shout out to Miles at Paragon. Please, if you got anything that you need printed up or anything done, reach out to Miles at Paragon, and he can get that taken care of.
Tell him Smashbox sent you. He likes that.
But only if you do it at the very last minute, like Terry. Just tell him, I need something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Terry likes to do that.
All right. Well, so anything else from around the PDGA? I'll let you take a quick look for some other news. I do want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Amateur Championships that I had the pleasure of covering this weekend. But before I do that, I also wanted to touch on the PDGA board of directors, and some of the staff members are having a PDGA spring summit of sorts that's going on right now. I believe that's out in California that they're participating in that. That's where they get together. Usually twice a year we have a spring summit, and then we have a fall summit. Those are the two opportunities where our board gets together and meets face-to-face. I want to say they either they meet on a teleconference call once a month or maybe even twice a month regularly during the rest of the year. But for 2 meetings a year, they're actually face-to-face, and in this case, they're getting together. For the last few years, they've been doing it on the West Coast during the springtime, and they're doing that right now. I think that may have even already concluded today. It might have taken place yesterday and today. So we're seeing that, and I'm sure we're going to see some minutes and some things as a result of that meeting. And then, again, we'll see that in October, usually right around the time of the Hall of Fame Classic. Sorry.
I knew you'd get that spit out
Yep,
of that.
I got it there. We got us there.
I don't see a ton of information on the PDGA as far as news. I see a bunch of new approved discs over the last 2 weeks.
All right, rattle some of those off.
Which seems pretty cool. Lift from Streamline, Rhea from Tokyo Discs, the DD3 retest, Mach 7, the basket as a target from DGA, the Draco from Millennium, the Method from Discmania, the MX3 Pro from Prodigy, the Stabilizer from Streamline, just discs upon discs upon discs.
Wow.
Amazing. So go out, check that out. PDGA announcements and PDGA news. You can see a lot of that stuff. Other than that, I haven't seen a lot of real big social media. There's the typical spoilers discussion that people are complaining about because the Jomez boys, they put on a thumbnail of Double G for the final back 9 of him raising his arms like this. And
he could have had an albatross.
That's what I said. Somebody said, there's a couple situations. Someone's like, well, you kind of spoiled it for me. And I said, well, he was like up by like 6 or 7 going to that back 9. And he could have just hit a huge putt. He could have hit an ace, or the law could have caught up with him.
Or somebody could have said, someone smelled my armpits. Did I need more deodorant today?
That's a great question. So ultimately, as I like to get into it a little bit, I'm like, grow up. But ultimately, that was the big discussion over the last day or two. There hasn't been too much, honestly. Just everybody excited that Double G won.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to quickly touch on, I again worked with Tom Marcus over at Everyday Disc Golf. It worked out that I was in town the way things unfolded this weekend. I was in the Midwest, so to speak, so I travel over to our beautiful neighboring state, which is very similar in a lot of ways over there in Minnesota, as my daughter likes to say. So I headed over to South St. Paul, Kaposia Park. If you live in the Midwest, this is absolutely a staple. It's
one of those must-hit courses.
Must-hit, iconic. It's just so much history in this course. It's a course I literally played golf at in the 90s, to tell you just how old me and this course are. So headed over there again. It's worked out so well that I've been able to check out the Minnesota Amateur Championships for a number of years now. I think back to seeing Jordan Castro and so many other competitors that I've met and watched grow and thrive. And this is one of the events where I kind of get introduced to them. It's 27 holes at Kaposia Park. They played it in a 5-some, as they do because there's so many people, but it's 27 holes on Saturday and then 27 holes on Sunday. if you want to wait for my coverage for a week or so or less, you need to close your ears now. But if not, huge shout out. They went into extra holes.
Of course they would.
And when it's 40 degrees and raining, I'm thinking, let's play more golf, the boys.
I knew that was coming.
Let's play more golf. I love them. Jake Cross and Matt Friedman, I think he goes by Frito, they were all knotted up and they only had a 1-stroke over Jamie Jaramillo. And they were knotted up, and then it went into a couple of extra holes into that sudden death. And then Matt reclaimed the title that he also earned in 2017. So Matt and his 937 rating, playing in this very tough advanced field, took it down. So he's your 2017 champion, and he's your 2019 champion at this event. And when you sort by ratings, you see that he's 10th or 12th highest rated player there. So you wouldn't pick him to win it necessarily. And he went out and got it done this weekend. So congratulations to him. That's what I saw on the MA1 side of things. I do want to shout out a couple of your, the other couple of guys we saw on the top. Jamie, I mentioned. Taylor Haney finished in 4th. Billy Kavanaugh finished in 5th, tied with J.D. Kelso, Edwin Hultgren, and Chris Lundquist. Fun moment to walk up on the lead card, see good old Chris. And Chris, as some of you, or maybe all of you know, Chris, one of the key components there of Parse Productions. Like, yeah, I'm here to film you, bro, let's go.
Welcome to the other side of the camera.
Oh, man, and I'll spoil it a little. He started out hot. Unfortunately, couldn't maintain it, but he had a great hot start during that round. I'm like, wow, okay, this guy's going to prove he doesn't
no joke.
Yeah, he's going to prove that he belongs in front of the camera, not behind one or at a computer. So awesome to see. Quickly shout out Andrea Martel, your winner on the women's advanced side. Nate Gross and Chris Freeman went to a playoff. I believe Nate took that down in AM Masters. John Cosina, we're going to go with Cosina on MM 50s or the Advanced Masters. Steve West is your winner. Taylor Hagstrom on the intermediate men's side of a very sizable field. There were 40 competitors. Shang Zong of the intermediate women one. Daniel Del Los Santos took down Rec, and Joshua Masucci. There we go. We'll go with that. And Joshua taking down on Junior. So congratulations to all of them. Thank you. Minnesota is always great to travel to. Always a good time. It feels just like going to a neighboring community. They've got a lot of great golf. If you ever, I don't care where you guys are from, when you get a chance to be in the Midwest, you need to stop in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa. Go play all those courses. If you have to visit Dana in Illinois, you can. There's a few I would give you, but there's so
Make sure to reach out to Dana.
Courses.
He'll play golf with anyone at any time, so always just bother him.
Yeah,
just message him, text him, put him on Twitter, Dana Disc Golf. Just always just say, I heard the Smashbox guys said that you will drop everything and golf with me whenever I want.
Yes, make it happen. So, quickly to talk about Portland. Yes, the forecast in Portland. We saw a little bit of rain forecasted for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I want to say I saw temperatures in the 80s even. So it looks like it should be relatively nice or moderate. I didn't see any rain in the forecast, so to speak. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, we have some great weather out there, and looking forward.
It looks pretty dry.
What do we got there? 75, 83, and 78 for Saturday, Sunday, Monday?
Correct. Friday during the practice day, it looks like probably rain more towards the middle of the day, around 2 to 3 o'clock. There's about a 50% chance, and then after that it clears up where you're looking at under 10% until you get to Sunday night, and then there might be something that comes through overnight, but ultimately that's a ways away. That could push forward or backward. We don't know at this point.
All right.
That's your weather
Yes,
take.
We're talking weather.
Supported by I don't know who supports our weather.
That's by Paragon Disc Golf.
Paragon Disc Golf.
For all your disc golf needs.
If you need towels for that wet weather, go to Paragon Disc Golf.
They got it all. All right, guys. Well, speaking of pushing forward or backward, we're going to push out of here. We've had enough of it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We missed you tonight, Dana. We hope all is well out in Colorado. And Steve Rico, we're looking forward. He did reach out and say he'd like to join us, just can't do it tonight. So we are looking forward to catching up with him sometime soon. We want to thank Dan Hastings, Mr. 1100. Not just what a round, but
what a day.
What a day, and then what a weekend. So impressive, and congratulations to him putting himself in a truly elite class.
You couldn't, on any of these people that are probably listening to this event, take 40 holes of almost any size hole and tell them you get to miss 3 shots.
Yeah.
No, I just don't think they could, and I don't think it would happen. No. I don't think there's the consistency. So congratulations, Dan.
It's very, very impressive, and glad to have you tonight. Certainly overdue in seeing all those great skills that you got. So for Johnny V and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, this has been episode 248 here on SmashBoxxTV. We're going to see you guys in the after show. We'll talk about things disc golf and non-disc golf related. We've got giveaways, including disc member and kids disc golf, a $200 valued player pack.
Woo!
That's going to be given away to one of our amazing supporters that was out here and supporting kids disc golf. We thank you guys so much. Again, Johnny V, Terry Miller, disc golf guy. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV podcast 248 After Show.
I almost went the wrong way because I was looking at it in the...
Good get it.
It says After Show Patreon exclusive.
Dang. Well, here we are. Welcome, everyone, for our video watchers, as I know so many of you are consuming and loving to see Johnny V's face. He's showing off the brand new Patreon exclusive After Show Soft Tee limited edition, and then some. As we closed out the regular show, thanking both Miles over at Paragon along with Tim Courts. Thank you guys. And most importantly, of course, thank you to our amazing Patreon subscribers of any level. Of course, if you want one of these super soft tees and you want to be special, you need to love us a little harder. But we're okay with any level of support that you guys give us. We do appreciate it. Here we are in the after show. Anything goes. We talk about disc golf and non-disc golf related items and topics.
See that in the board you posted you just acquired a 300 disc collection?
Maybe.
Who was that from? Was someone in Minnesota? Was that someone locally?
Someone locally. And here's what I will say. In acquiring this collection, it felt so much like the olden days of collecting baseball cards, in the sense that, dare I say, there's a lot of commons. Like,
sure,
there's so
your
many
DX
discs.
Eagle.
You go through so many discs.
Comets here and there.
And it's even funny, even though many of them are, in fact, from yesteryear or even yesterdecade, the fact that so many of them are just quote-unquote dated, and that's not to say they're not great discs. They're just so dated, and you hit the nail right on the head. If you need a DX Eagle, I'm your guy.
That's the guy to go
I got some DX Eagles for you.
I only know that because I have so many DX Eagles in there in my closet that I look at them, I'm like, oh my God, no one throws these anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, no one of significant stature throws these. These are probably still great beginner discs. These are discs that I could see having a couple of them in my car or just stuffed in the side of my bag. So when you run into a player, you're like, oh yeah, I know this is old, but here you go, dude. Stop throwing the max that you're throwing when an Eagle or a Wraith is going to be a better off disc for you.
Yeah, and it's what's so a few things about this particular collection. Lots, almost. I would say at least 75% have various custom stamps. Now, they might be from tournaments either played in or acquired at tournaments.
And that makes them less valuable, correct?
To me, it depends on the actual disc. Now, to someone that wants to throw one, I don't think it really matters. Now, if you're looking at another collector, that could also be up for debate. I'm to a point, as many of you know, I collect original Ontario rocks, and I now own so many of those in particular that I now do seek out not only custom stamps of them, but then ones that are in really good shape. I have so many of them of varying levels of condition that I'm finally thinking about starting to get picky about the ones I actually will seek out and acquire. I used to collect any and every, and now it's like, I can let that one go. I don't need to chase after that one, because now I'm looking for just custom stamps.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. What were the good discs you got out of it? You probably, in general, wouldn't buy a collection of 300 commons unless you're getting a really good deal on it.
There's a handful that will definitely make the overall purchase
What is
break even.
One or two of them that you looked at and went, okay, this is why I purchased this lot?
There may or may not be a number of bar stamped buzzes, original bar stamped buzzes, which I know some people really seek out. There's a couple that say first run and then have a bar stamp buzz on them. And there might even be one or two that say first run, have a bar stamp, and then on the underside,
are they wasp tools?
Have a little wasp tooling to the name. So there's a few of those. There's a good number of rocks as well. Mm-hmm. Some that range that have either a Big Bird stamp on them or like I was saying, a custom stamp. And then I will say this, it's also very Discraft heavy. This competitor was really back more so in the days when it was primarily Innova and Discraft, which wasn't really that long ago if you think about it.
I reached out for this. I got money.
Discraft heavy is where I would say this is. And although the lot came in at what I feel like is very reasonable and fair price really for both of us, the only way that I'm going to get the money's worth out of it or even come out ahead or really even just get the money's worth out is going to be by piecing these out and finding individuals that seek out particular discs. And that's where all the real work comes in. It's
Correct.
Just because there's, like I said, there are quite a few that I'll just say I don't think anyone will ever be interested in. Some will make for great, to get thrown into a donation bin. Some will be great for demos and clinics. And then some will have to be, I'm going to have to work hard in order to move some of them.
Some of them, if they're if you're looking to part with the buzzes, will fly off the shelves for top dollar.
Some of them may.
If you decide you're going to part
if I want to move them.
Correct. And that's not saying that you will, because I know you.
So, and surprisingly, as a few people have asked about Cyclone, surprisingly, this particular lot really didn't contain any of those. Although, I will say there are a lot of magnets, a lot of magnets. There's a good amount of slightly worn in. If you like a slightly beat in or worn in AVR, this also could very much interest you in terms of both magnets and AVRs. Those are it's, believe it or not, it's quite heavy in terms of those. And then lots of random odds and ends throughout the years of the early 2000s, I would say, but not too much in terms of we'll say champion or CE type plastic. So anyway, reach out on Facebook. I may or may not ever get around to inventorying them. That's the first problem. And then the second problem is actually like photographing them and then making them available. They'll probably just get buried.
I know.
In among everything else. It's probably
first they'll go into your they'll make it maybe to the inside of your house.
Into my office.
No, we're getting there. First they probably will sit by the kitchen table or the dining room table.
Yeah.
At some point your wife will complain. You'll be like, fine, whatever. You'll pick them up and move them into your office.
That's where the goodies get stashed.
Where they'll sit for a couple months before they might go downstairs in your storage.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yep. That's the goodie.
And then at some point, you'll look at your downstairs storage and go, geez, I need to move some of these to offsite storage because I need more space in my downstairs storage. So you'll just load up these random boxes. You won't even look at what's in them. You'll put them in your car, drive to your storage, never once opening the box, open your storage, hope not to be crushed, look around and be like, I think it'll fit up here. And you'll shove it up there to be vanished like the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
How far off am I?
No, that's pretty. That's
okay.
That's not bad.
Okay.
and then in 6 months or a year,
a couple of years, probably,
I'll be randomly digging around and I'll open up the box and be like, oh my gosh, this is a Buzz that is going for like $150 online. Like, this is awesome. And then what I'll do, I'll take a photo or two. I'll put it out on Facebook and be like, anybody still like these? And then I'll put it back in the box.
Such a dick.
I'll put it back in the box. And everybody's like, yeah, how many of those do you have? I don't know.
I got a couple dozen of them.
Or sometimes I will then grab the handful of discs that I find that are really actually special or unique, and I'll bring them back to my office, back at my house, and I'll think, okay, everything in the office I need to eventually put up and make available for people to go after, because they're really going to want these. And then that special stash gets turned into a special box, and then that special box goes back to storage, all to restart the process.
It's the cycle of life.
It's amazing. It's a lot of fun. Now, I will say this. With these, most of them have either somewhere and or have been thrown and or are marked, have names or phone numbers or whatever on them. And secondly, with all of that, or I should say in addition to that, I have less attachment to them because they weren't truly mine, as opposed to all the other ones that I've either bought or I should say bought myself, as a dealer or whatever. I am, I think, a little quicker to let some of these go because I don't have an attachment to them, except for the really expensive ones. I have no attachment to them. There's not a story behind them all. Disc by disc, like there are with all the other ones that I have. So I might be willing to let a few go. We'll see.
You can give me all the details off the air.
Oh, yeah. Woo-wee. We like it. Mike on the board says, Terry's children will one day empty the storage and have a yard sale and sell each disc for $1 a piece. No. I should write up.
I wouldn't let that happen.
I need to write up a very explicit will. There's a lot of things that could get given away. You find some T-shirts that I had when I used to run an event in 2010, and I still have 17 of the T-shirts. Sure, rummage sale those for $1 a piece or give them to Goodwill. The discs, however, those should be sold at top dollar to pay for some kids.
Yes, if anything ever happens to Terry, there are a few of us that know the details that. just all we need to do is figure out how to get into storage.
Yes.
And then at that point, we will make sure that things happen after we take a few of ourselves and be like, well, this is for our time.
Yeah.
And then we will help his kids out.
There will be some great gems in there for sure. All right, Johnny, do you have some giveaway action yet?
We do.
We're going to have multiple giveaways tonight, so stay tuned.
We will. I want to thank everybody who's a Patreon supporter. Once again, if you want to be eligible for this first prize and the one prize we do every single week, you can join us at patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Literally for the price of a beer at an airport. You can support us for the entire year.
Why?
Just to get $1 a month. That's all we ask. Just you would give us $1 if you saw us. Like if I was sitting there and I was at a gas station, I was like, oh man, I forgot my wallet, but I really want this gum. Hey, fellow disc golfer, you got $1 I can borrow? You'd look at me and be like, okay, I guess so. And you'd give me $1. And if I did that every month, you'd think that I was freeloading on you.
But I'm not. We should be panhandling? Is that what you're suggesting? We could make more money hanging out at gas stations?
I've seen some people panhandling. It looks like they're doing all right.
Okay.
But in general, if you find any value in what we do, even if you don't, $1 a month is not too much to ask for. Or if you just want to have
pity on us.
If you
could
feel sorry
think
for
these guys
us.
have no value.
That's right. Anyway, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. We have the disc member box that's sitting right behind Terry's laptop right there. Next week, we'll give away the other thing that's on top of that disc. But this is just a standard box. You can't see inside of it. But as we heard,
a disc in a box?
It's your disc in a box that has inside of it a swirly CD3 with the exclusive Benjamin Hopwood design, Discmania Tech Towel, Discmania Carabiner keychain, Discmania sticker, and a UDisc Pro subscription for the life of your disc membership. So if you like Discmania, this is the box for you. If you don't, find someone who does, or throw the disc, see if you love it. You might turn into a Discmania fan.
Or if you're not interested, take it to your local tournament or your local league night and say, hey guys, let's split this stuff up. I've got like 2 or 3 CTP prizes right here for you. I mean, there's so many things you could do with it.
Run a 50-50 CTP with it and take all the profit.
Yeah, and then pay for your annual SmashBoxxTV Patreon contribution.
There you go.
I mean, turn around and just resell this right away and think, hey, I'm just going to pay for my next Patreon donation that way. I mean, there's so many things you can do with it.
All right, so we currently have 214 Patreon supporters. So I'm going to put that into our favorite website, random.org. Terry, we need a number.
We do need a number. I don't have any clever...
2.
Let's go with 2.
Because there were 211... Well, there wasn't 2 11-rated rounds.
No,
he shot 2 rounds that equaled up to 1,100 rated, which, hey, that's pretty darn good. And it was a 2-day event.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm going with, 2. So the second number. So the first number is 186.
And he's got 2 S's in his name.
The second number is 114. I actually sorted them by zip code.
Wow, you crazy cat, you.
Which is funny because some of them don't have zip codes because they're overseas.
Yeah.
So they just get sorted near the bottom. Bob Johnson. Congratulations, Bob Johnson. That's a name I haven't heard. So I hope you're...
Not since the T-shirt.
Not since... What?
Maybe that's Big Johnson.
That's Big Johnson. All right. You were going right where I thought, but I wanted to make sure. So Bob Johnson, congratulations. We will email you and we will get this box out to you. So once again, thank you for your patronage. As always, we love you.
We do. We super appreciate it. Ryan says that sounds like a fake name. Well, as long as he's got a legitimate address, I don't really care.
I don't care if it's a fake name as long as it's a legitimate credit card.
Yeah, exactly. Or heck, have a fake credit card. I don't care as long as it gets charged correctly.
As long as it gets charged.
Yes. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right. So getting a little we'll say this is a tangent. I kind of randomly came up with a poll yesterday. I was pleasantly surprised to see over 500 people vote in it. I wasn't thinking about the actual turnout. And yes, we're going to have another giveaway in a little while. but wasn't thinking about the turnout. Ultimately, I had 557 people vote on this poll. Some of you saw it on Facebook, some of you didn't. And I had just said, let's assume it was for the next 40 years of your life. Which would you rather have? An 850 FICO credit score or a 1,000 PDGA rating?
That's an easy answer for me, and I'm going to take the 1,000 PDGA rating. I voted in that not only because, I figure if I'm 1,000 rated, I'm cashing at most events that I go to. So I'm able to, quote unquote, earn money, even though we're spending whatever travel. Plus, I already have an 811 rated FICO score. And I just happened to look at that yesterday when you posted that, because I have a service that tells me every couple months, like, hey, this is your newest rating. I have an 811 FICO score. So for me, that's
almost as good as your rating.
Just kidding.
I'm kidding.
Look at me. Oh, Jesus.
There's a funny game we could play there. We always think about like, a round of ball golf and then a round of disc golf and then, add up your strokes or your scores or whatever. Somehow your rating plus your FICO rating, maybe there could be a fun game that gets played there too.
It could be.
I don't know how that would work, but we could come up with one.
Your rating should, for the most part, we'll stay for most adults be higher than your FICO score. I've seen juniors that have lower ratings and things like that, but as an adult, someone I'll say who's, let's say, 16 and over, you should definitely have a higher disc golf rating.
Hopefully.
Yeah. You should. Or if not, you should really work on that.
So it was kind of obviously it was totally for fun and kind of random. What actually prompted it, to some degree, I rewind a few months ago, and I was sharing some living quarters during the Throwdown the Mountain, presented by Sun King Disc and Discraft. I'm legally obligated to say that. Okay, I'm not. But I was sharing some living quarters with the Macbeths and with Simon Lizotte. Now, there is a name drop in the after show. But in all seriousness, we were talking about, some of the, Simon, at that time, it was relatively new news. Of course, Paul signed a big contract, but Simon had signed a significant contract, but not having a credit score here in the U.S., obviously because of his international residence, not having a credit score, and him having I'm going to say a more than legitimate salary as a disc golfer, and him having challenges when going to pick up, I believe he bought an Audi. I think that's what those cars are called. Trying to go buy one of those, and then having that whole conversation about how credit gets established, so on and so forth, and just not something that's on the forefront of someone like Simon, as opposed to, what we see more in the U.S. and the considerations. And I think that speaks volumes, because a lot of the people that had responded with comments on my board had said, yeah, I live internationally, or I live, abroad or whatever, where credit scores just aren't nearly what they are in the U.S., or they're completely irrelevant, whatever the case might be. And so that got me to thinking about what your score is, what it matters. In a previous life, immediately after college, I had worked at Kohl's department store that the world headquarters are here in the Milwaukee area. And the position I had was in the credit department. I was kind of like a business analyst, we'll say. And it was specifically within the credit area. And that's where I truly learned everything. I knew nothing about credit, really. I was 21, 22. I didn't know much about credit myself. Obviously, taking on that first job within the credit department, I learned everything about that I needed to know, at least, about credit and credit scores and working with the various credit bureaus. And it just, and then even explaining it to my 10-year-old daughter tonight, like, what does a credit score mean and how is it, put together and all these other things. Just an interesting conversation. And then to hear everyone debate what they felt like was important to them. Just like you said, you have a great credit score.
So yeah.
I have a great credit score. I'm not at all concerned
about
that. Some
weird flexes tonight, but okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, credit karma all up in you. But it clearly where you are and what your life is. And that's why I said the next 40 years. Because I was thinking, what it means to the 20-year-old versus what it means to the 40-year-old. And fast forward, you're 40 now. How kick-ass would that be to have 1,000 rating when you're 80?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're at any age, 1,000 rating is a damn good golfer. Well, you're really good if you're 80 and you're 1,000 rated. Like, how awesome would that be? So I think some people, and to give you guys the results of the poll, I know not everyone was, listen, it was almost perfectly a 2-to-1 margin that people had opted for the 850 credit score. So do you find that interesting?
I find that a little bit interesting, honestly, because if I remember correctly, pretty much anything over 750 is pretty good for credit scores.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've cared or looked. But
except for yesterday.
I mean, honestly,
I know.
As far as like what a good versus
relative,
bad,
yes,
relative. I mean, again, I looked
you.
at mine. It was in the green according to my little mint.com, and they were like, "Oh, look at you got a great credit. Look at me, I'm awesome." And so
go ahead.
So and I don't feel like it's that tough to get a good credit rating as long as you are, we'll say, not bad with your money. We'll put it that way. There are obviously circumstances where things happen, whether it's crazy medical bills or things like that, where you can run afoul of that. But in general, for the most average person, all you have to do is pay your bills, and you can have a decent credit rating. That's all I do.
Yeah, I mean,
I pay my bills, and that's good enough. Like,
yeah, to be very clear, you don't need to have a lot of money.
Nope.
You just need to make sure you pay your bills. You do not need to be rich. Yep. You just need to pay your bills.
I literally have, I technically 2 credit cards. Maybe I don't know if the third one counts at my work credit card that work pays off for me, even though it's got my name. It's a company card. So I don't think it does. It's got my name on it, but I don't think it counts. We've got our SmashBoxx credit card, and I've got a personal credit card. That's it. It's the only credit cards I have, and we just pay it off every month. And then, house and car. Pretty standard stuff. And school loans. And if you just maintain your payment, your credit score is going to be fine. You can't say that about disc golf. I can't just go out and just be like, I'm just going to go out and play today.
I mean, if you
I'm going to get to be 1,000 rated. That doesn't work. You have to put effort in to be 1,000 rated. I don't have to put much effort in to have just a decent credit score. So that's why I was a little surprised to see people say that they wanted credit score. So it makes me believe that either a lot of people have poor credit, that you have a lot of poor credit followers,
maybe,
or that I'm missing something, which is always a good chance.
Robert McCall says he would take the 1,000 rating. That's a long friggin' time to be really good, the 40 years, and credit score is easier to build up than rating.
Bingo.
I agree. And Darren out here says, true flex. I haven't had a credit card in 12 years by choice. And I unfortunately, I disagree. I'll just say, like, that's exactly what, we speak of. Simon and I, of course, I talked to lots of people.
It depends what other credit you have, though. You could go without a credit card and still have car loans and house loans and things like that and still maintain a credit. But honestly, you don't need a credit score if you're willing to pay for everything in cash.
Correct. But that also has limitations. If you're a business owner, for instance, whether it's business credit or individual credit or whatever it is that you have, if you have no credit to speak of whatsoever, having no credit score is clearly worse than having a good credit score. And anyway,
Makers Telemark says he's got street cred. He doesn't need credit cards. Shout out to you, Makers.
Yeah, we like that. All right, I'm going to move on. But anyway, thought it was an interesting and somewhat funny question to pose out there that was just randomly thought of the other day. I don't know why. But like you said, interesting to see the 2-to-1. I think it was 65-35, so almost exactly 2-to-1. Yeah, 65-35 after 557 votes.
I want to go through that and look at some of the comments as to why people chose the credit score when there's no. I can't say no. There's very little financial gain to a great credit score. Now, you can get a lower interest rate on your credit cards and things like that, but ultimately
lower insurance,
maybe a little bit. But a lot of that stuff, and so, but to get the decent credit score, you kind of have to you can have revolving credit, but you should pay it all off anyway and not pay that interest. But that being said, if you're 1,000 rated, again, you're probably cashing at almost every event that you play.
Yeah.
And so you're going to at least probably, hopefully, break even on your hobby. If you stay local and do things like you're not traveling big places. If I was 1,000 rated in Wisconsin and just traveled inside Wisconsin, I would almost for certain break even on my travel and tournament expenses.
At least, yeah. Every single weekend, yeah.
And that's assuming you take, you win a couple and then you take a bunch of seconds and thirds when someone has a great weekend. And if you just shot every round 1,000 rated, we'll say.
Yeah, I guess it clearly depends what's...
Of course. If I'm shooting 1050 and 950, that's different than if I'm shooting 1,000 rated every single round. But
well, it seems like there's even some discussion on the board, which is exactly what I love seeing. Darren does say he's with Mike, and Randy Moss infamously said, "Straight cash, homie."
Ain't nothing wrong with that if you can do it. I don't know how you would pay for a house that way.
Straight cash, homie. When you're Randy Moss.
Well, when you're Randy Moss.
Yeah, that's straight cash. I can get down with that as well, if you got that kind of cash. All right. On disc golf, unrelated disc golf news. Did we see the Milwaukee Bucks lost the playoff game tonight? Spoiler alert.
Did they?
That's what somebody said earlier on the board, that we were taking the loss quite well. So
it's that we won the first two at home, and now we've lost these two at
Toronto.
In Toronto. Now I believe it comes back to Milwaukee. Hopefully we can, assuming you're not a Toronto fan, hopefully we can rally and win. Because I think Darren would know this, but is it 2-2-1-1-1?
No. So game five is held in Milwaukee, and then game 6 held in Toronto.
So it's 2-2-1-1-1.
So that's how it's going to unfold. Golden State, again, slap a timestamp on this. Golden State won last night. I think that was a 4-game sweep, and they're heading back to the finals. The question is, Toronto or Milwaukee? Is that how the math works out on that, Johnny? I'm sorry, what was that? I'm not a basketballer. I said it's now Golden State who won last night. They completed the sweep, and so it's either them against Milwaukee or Toronto.
Correct. I would really love, even if I wasn't a Bucks fan, I think I would want to see the Bucks play the Warriors just based on the styles of play as opposed to Toronto. Having watched the game, it's the Bucks. The Bucks style of play seems a little bit more aggressive, and I've only watched playoffs. I think I watched a total of 2 games during the regular season. I kept up with them because they're playing well and this and that, but ultimately now I've watched a good handful of the playoff games. So I think the Bucks games are more exciting. They're a little bit more of an aggressive team, and you can see that because there's some really dumb turnovers that we make. But ultimately, it's I would love to see us go up against Golden State. Let's put it that way.
And I don't know if I should feel bad. Obviously, I'm not that big of a fan overall. I don't know if I should feel bad or not that I don't think I've seen 30 seconds. I've officially watched as much Game of Thrones this year or in my life as I have watched of the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not that big of an NBA follower or fan in the first place, so maybe that sounds too obvious. But
all right,
I live 18 minutes from where they're 22 minutes from where the Bucks play.
Yeah,
haven't watched 10 seconds of any game at any point this year
from downtown. So here's what I'm going to say. One thing, as Robert's on the thing, I'm going to pull a Bobby and keep it real.
Oh, keep it real.
I don't care if you don't watch Game of Thrones.
Yep.
The people that go and post like, I've never watched any Game of Thrones on Facebook, nobody cares.
Do you?
Nobody cares that you haven't watched it. Let people enjoy things. That's the famous comic where the guy's pinching the lips says, let people. I saw one post like, I'm one of the 1% that's never watched it. Bull. Like, I think.
Because you think it's more than 1%?
Oh, God, yeah. Think about how much HBO. This was HBO's highest rated thing. And my guess is,
wasn't it 14.8 million or something like that?
Okay, so thank you, because I didn't even know. 14.8 million. So let's just assume that double that have watched an episode of caught one episode, maybe triple that.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at 45 million or 50 million people. The U.S. alone is 300 million. Plus you throw Europe, China.
There's like 8 billion people.
It's like 1% of the people that have watched it. Probably closer to 5%, we'll say, of that have watched an episode again. So for you to sit and talk about how you don't watch it and think you're special because you don't watch it, because you don't get behind what a lot of people are enjoying and want to talk about, shut your face hole or stop your typing holes or whatever you want to say. Like, it's just, I don't get that about anything. That's like someone going on Super Bowl Sunday like, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. Like, nobody cares.
Well, I feel like you had the same rant 2 weeks ago.
I might have. Or close
what
to
did
it.
you think? I didn't watch it.
I know.
No, but what did you think of the finale? Because obviously I see then the fallout. Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah.
It felt like there was more negative than positive.
It was.
But is this
For
one
sure.
of those situations
Sure.
like no matter what, people are going to complain because it's ending and there's
be
no
very
way that
hard.
you could please the mass to end this entire series?
Yes, it would have been very difficult to please everybody. And I'll say this last season felt very rushed. Even last season it wasn't as good as some of the earlier seasons, hands down. I thought for the final episode, I thought they did a good job of wrapping everything up. Everybody kind of went their own way and did their thing that survived. And I didn't mind it for a final episode. I didn't love the episode before it. I liked the first 2 or 3 episodes. I didn't like 5 and 6. No, I liked 1, 2, and 3. I didn't like 4 and 5. 6 was okay. I mean, you basically have to say, okay, here's how 10 years of TV, this is where we want all of our characters. This is what they're going to do. They're setting up for a few different possible spin-offs. So there's always that there's not anything that's truly wrapped up, we'll say. I mean, there's a few things that are wrapped up, but there's some open threads that can happen. I didn't mind the finale. It was decent. The season as a whole, not as good as the other seasons. So for everybody, there are a lot of people complaining, and everybody has a right to complain if they don't like it. That's fine. But overall, it is and will go down as one of the best series in TV history.
Yeah, and
whether you look at acting or cinematography or for the most part storylines, they're all very good. Casting was phenomenal. If you look at who they got to play what parts, for the most part you look at it and go, yeah, that's a kind of a perfect person for that. You may not like some of the decisions at the end. You may not like the pacing. I get that, but I'm okay with it. I don't love it. It's not as good as what it was, but it's still good.
Well, one of the comments that I heard must have been on the radio or so. Yeah, I think it was the radio. Somebody, there was a debate as to people saying things like, well, it would have been, the finale is what will keep it from being the greatest series of all time, which I know is 100% subjective in the first place. But a lot, the comment was the finale and the ending is what will keep it from possibly being the greatest series of all time because people just really dislike the ending that much. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, Breaking Bad or others are still in the running for being the greatest because I don't want to say botched the finale, but it just sounded like there was a lot of displeasure. And clearly I have no dog in this fight.
Because like I said, I don't think they botched the finale. If they botched anything, it was the episode before the finale. Like the finale to me was like, cool, all the major crap has happened. Let's just wrap this up. Like, okay, here's who's going to do this. Here's going to do that. Here's going to do this. This is what they're all doing. I get that. If they botched anything, it's the episode 2 before. I think Breaking Bad had a better ending. But if you think back, like, in your opinion, would you rate Seinfeld as one of the greatest series of all time? If you think, like, do you think that would be up there?
For in terms of sitcoms, like I thought it was one of my favorite shows to ever watch.
And
I've never really thought about rating
I think
overall
people
shows,
would
but
argue it's one of the best. And guess what?
Everyone hated that ending.
That
too.
finale sucked.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
Yeah,
like the Scrubs to me is one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. I'll laugh hysterically. They ended it perfect, and then they did another season, like where they brought like just kind of people, and it was awful. Does that wreck it for me? No. I kind of forget and pretend that last season didn't happen. There are plenty of finales that just, it's really hard to tie everything up, and you get a couple series, I think, that really know how to finish. And it just goes to show, as everyone says, the first bunch of seasons, you have these tomes of books you could pick and choose from. Like, you want a specific storyline, you can pull that, because George R.R. Martin, he will write 20 pages about the dinner they ate and get into graphic. So there's a lot of material. The last 2 seasons, those books aren't even out yet. Like, George R.R. Martin basically said, here's the story I want to do. You get them here. These are kind of the points I want to hit. And I just don't think that the writers were prepared for that. Like, they were like, ooh, okay, well, we kind of have to make things happen, and this is the way it's going to go. It makes it a lot tougher. And I understand if people don't like it. I
can preemptively say, the book was better, even though the book's not out yet?
Yes. You can preemptively say it. And I'll read the books when they come out. It's going to be great.
The book's definitely better.
So the books definitely nailed it,
Is that the most, I don't know if cliche, predictable phrase that you can hear when it comes to books and movies?
The book is, if you think about it, most of the time, the book is better.
See, and I never say that because I never read a book.
Yeah, I know. And I'll say this, when people say better, what they probably really mean is more thorough. Because a script is 120 pages. Usually those are toned down from a book that's probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 pages long. So you can get much more detailed. And it's basic. Yep. I feel like I'm, not to you, but in general, I feel like I'm describing something to my kid. Like, yeah, your imagination is better than probably what someone's putting up on the thing.
I trust other people more.
And that's, bravo, good for you. In general, I think I loved it. I thought it was a great series, and those first 5 seasons, I think, were so good. And then 6 was decent, and 7 and 8 were like, okay, I get it. Like, it's a little tougher. We've spent so much time doing things.
Well, Hannah Macbeth always wants me to give a hot take, or us to give one. And I think I got to go tweet it now that the book was better, the book that's unwritten. I'm going to have to tweet that one out there, to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Because then I'll look like a genius. Because when the books come out, people will be like, oh, yeah, the books were definitely better. So
Yeah, as Mike Nichols says, the court ending with Seinfeld, that was horrible. Arrested Development, the last 2 seasons, garbage. Like, hot flaming turds.
Wow.
Like, the early seasons of Arrested Development, really good. The newer ones, when they're kind of piecing things together, not that good. Like, it's just, yeah.
All right, well.
Yeah, Veep I want to watch. I haven't watched that Darren LeMay. I heard it did stick the landing, and I really do want to.
Have you been following that all along, or you want to start from scratch?
I want to start from scratch. Now that it's over,
yeah.
I have access to an HBO account.
Yep.
That I do want to kind of go through it, because I've heard it's very, very good. And I also want to watch True Detective season 3. But the inevitable issue here is, do I start watching it and bring my wife in? Or do I watch it without her? Because if I watch it without her, I'm going to be able to burn through it so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
I can watch it on my lunch hours. I can do whatever I want. If I have to wait for her, that slows me way down. Yeah, and she wants to watch it, which makes it tough for me. And she feels I would feel bad just being like, no, cool, I watched it. You can watch it when you want to now. And it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way.
All right. Well, before I get back to the entertainment industry, this borders on it. I have some very exciting news that I've been kind of teasing out there, and there's actually going to be maybe even more that comes in addition to it that's still being worked on. But as of right now, it looks as if once I can finalize a few keystrokes, maybe even as early as tonight, I am very, very excited to announce that I will be heading to Finland and helping as best as I can with my media coverage to be part of the Tuni, taking place in Finland, and I just can't say it enough. I'm stoked about it. It was something that was somewhat unexpected, and it happened through some conversations and some happenstance. And when it was all said and done, once I booked the tickets, that's, dare I say, the main component. It sounds like we've got all the other agreements worked out. Myself and good buddy, PDGA number 2540, that's my boy, Johnny Rumble.
Ooh, Rumble's going with you.
Johnny Rumble and I will be heading over to the Toonie, and I'll be doing some media action. And whatever they need. There's been a few ideas thrown around. Of course, shot-by-shot coverage is one component, and I would like to do some more stuff in addition to that. They've talked to me about doing so, and there you have it. Super excited. So for the first time ever, I will be heading to Finland for any reason, and obviously then for the first time for disc golf. And we've talked about it. We've touched on it a little bit over the last year or so, that the Toonie is, I mean, they really have modeled themselves after the GBO, the Glass Blown Open. Clearly a great event to model yourself after, as being the largest event in PDGA history. And just borrowing a lot of the philosophy and components that make that event so amazing, but instead having it over in Finland. So they have an app, just like the GBO does. They have a ton of flex starts and C tiers and additional events people can play in. They're going to have 3 rounds of golf on for the competition on the A tier side. I want to say the registration is already around like 900 competitors. I'll admit I don't know exactly what the total capacity is, but I know there's somewhere around 800 or 900 as it is. And I just want to thank Juha and everyone that had any part of making it a reality. So super excited to head over to the Toonie, and now I just need to book some flights, which I'm working on those final details, and I've been researching for the last couple of weeks. So thank you. And funny story, somewhat of how quickly I'll talk about. I was coming home or heading back to the hotel one of the nights of the GBO. I forget which night. Maybe Thursday night rings a bell. Might have been Friday night. But I was heading back, and along the side of the road, one of the main roads that goes out of town to the Roadway Hotel, a gentleman, we'll say staggering is a good term, was making his way from downtown Emporia out to the Roadway. That's a few miles. Everything's close in Emporia, but that's still a few miles. It may or may not have been about 2:15 or 2:30 in the morning. And I saw him staggering back and forth, and I actually turned around my car. I turned around, I pulled up next to him. I'm like, hey, get in. I'll give you a ride. You shouldn't be out here walking, as he was walking along kind of the side of this busy road or highway. And I brought him over to the Roadway, which was his destination, dropped him off. At that point, someone had seen me and said, oh, can we take a picture? Jump out, gladly oblige. And also at that point is when I saw Juha, and we immediately started talking. He said something about you coming to Finland and filming. I said, yeah, anytime somebody wants to have me there, I'm all ears. And then he had said, well, I'm the assistant tournament director, and I help out with the Toonie, and let's talk and see if we can make something happen. So after talking about this now for a couple of weeks and some great emails and everything else, it worked out that even on relatively short notice, able to pull it off. So kind of funny. I think a lot of parents said something like nothing good happens after midnight, or nothing good can happen after 2 a.m. I beg to differ. You can run into amazing ambassadors and tournament directors from foreign countries, and then have conversations about filming disc golf while you're there. So super excited, and I want to say thank you guys so much for making it happen. Looking forward to it.
I want to show something.
Okay.
On the broadcast. Sorry to the audio listeners. If you get the chance, go to Reddit or watch our podcast here on YouTube. But this is at the very top of Reddit right now. I don't exactly know what's going on until you see this. There's a deer like attacking a gentleman who's playing disc golf, and then the deer runs away. So they did something to make a deer very, very angry, and I've never seen a deer get aggressive before. Usually they're pretty skittish.
Wow. So this it looks like they're clearly out at a course.
Correct. A pretty heavily wooded course, and
at one point the deer walks up to the player, and he throws a disc at the deer to try and get it away from him.
I couldn't tell if he tried to do that or if he was worried that the deer was gonna.
He definitely threw the disc.
Oh yeah, he did. You're right.
At the deer to maybe. I mean, it looks like the deer's approached him, and I don't know if it had been hostile prior to that, but he throws the disc at the deer from 2 feet away.
Just like kind of a little forehand flick at like its head or neck area, and trying to scare it away, and that just pissed it off.
Wow,
that is.
So that's interesting. I wonder where that actually took place.
Yeah, not sure. I'm sure if I looked at the comments, it would probably tell me. But
yeah, that's very interesting. When deers attack. Huh.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, those things, as Darren says, those whitetail bucks will F you up.
Yeah. And the June, end of June. In fact, I think it will go. The Disc Golf Pro Tour will take place. I want to say like June 21, 22, 23. And then I think talking about possibly flying over on Monday the 24th, bringing it all the way back to July 1st. And then immediately upon the return, we head over to the Discraft Great Lakes Open. So plenty busy and really looking forward to it.
So we have one more giveaway tonight.
We do?
Yes, we have the Kids Disc Golf giveaway.
Oh, yeah, we do.
You have a list of players that in general have that were kind enough, or people that were kind enough this week to purchase the tags for the Kids Disc Golf. And you are not included on that list.
I'm not. I'm a little disappointed. I bought 13 tags.
You don't get to win.
I bought 13 tags. I bought one tag for every single person. And I'm not sure if Disc...
Yes, Disc Baron bought 5.
Oh, my gosh.
So they just put him in there once, so we should probably copy that down there
We're going
times.
to...
He's going to get 5 entries.
I guess I don't need to be doing it the way I am.
You don't even really need to do that
Sometimes I'm
part.
not smart the way I do things, but we all know that. I'm here with you for 248 episodes, so I think that was a given. Right?
Sure.
Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are. So Disc Baron 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and bingo. So what are our numbers here? Let me delete this. I will delete a row to make it even easier. So that gives us officially 18
entries
into this. Some people bought more than one. Disc Baron bought a handful. I feel like, well, yeah, that's the order. It looks like that's the order that they were maybe purchased in. So is there an easy random on here? I know there is, or there used to be. Doesn't matter.
No, but I can.
All right, so Johnny V is going to come up with a number. This is for a player pack from last year's United States Junior Disc Golf Championships that took place out there at Smuggler's Notch. Matt and Josh from Kids Disc Golf showed it off last week, said they had one final player pack with all the goodies plus the bag.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to over a $200 value. So if someone went out, bought a $10 tag or more than one, they were eligible to win this bag, and so super excited to give this away tonight.
I'm going to let you pick the number, Terry.
All right. Well, let's go with... Well, this year will be the second year of the Junior Championships, so we're going to pick the second number from random.org.
1 through 18. The first number was 13. The second number is 17. That means I'm fairly certain we just saw Disc Baron take that.
Oh, yeah. Jacob Stahl of Disc Baron is ultimately going to take that home. So
bravo.
Thank you for, I mean, not only for supporting us every single week, week in and week out, supporting the Disc Golf Guy in addition to SmashBoxxTV as you've done, and then also supporting Kids Disc Golf. And I know you have a plethora of people you sponsor and other events that you sponsor, and thank you so much. We can't say enough. We very much appreciate that.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll send over the information to the guys over at Kids Disc Golf, and we'll make that happen. I haven't received my tags yet, but I know they're on the way. I will put them all in storage. You're exactly right.
Yes, he will.
All right. I had something else mildly clever to bring up, and it totally slipped my mind.
Probably not.
When I went off on the Toonie experience, it was actually something clever. I don't know what it was. We saw a starter pack challenge.
We did. Central Coast is doing I believe it was a 4-player starter pack challenge. Maybe it was 5 players in that.
I feel like there was 5, maybe.
There might have been 5. We'll see the results. I mean, once they get around to editing that, it'll probably be a couple weeks.
Okay.
Before we see the that video come out, but yeah, we'll get to
some
see
new comment and now this last weekend we saw Central Coast and Jomez and was there
Parsave
and Parsave? Yes, it was Parsave. Okay, so all covered, but you didn't get a chance to consume any of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'd love to know if you guys, what you guys thought of the coverage out there. I assume it was good. Covering in that rain and that wet and all that other disgustingness, I'm sure is not fun. Well, I'm sure. I know it's not fun.
Not fun.
So huge kudos to all those guys that had to break through it. I was going to say earlier, one of the things I was going to say earlier, Masters Cup, again, does not disappoint in the trophy department. Did you see like the mini surfboards?
The mini surfboard. I saw Katrina with a picture of hers.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I know a few years ago, Braden Coolidge, who was running the event, had I believe done some sculptures himself as part of the as the trophies. I think I remember Paul Macbeth receiving one of those. Just again, they never disappoint. Some really cool ideas for trophies out there, which is really good. Mike Nickel says out on the board that Parsave did a good job. No surprise there. Ryan Pilcher says that KJ USA, Sexton, Eagle, Oakley, and Earhart. So what is great is that they really covered a number of the they were all different brands, of course. Mm-hmm. You had Prodigy, Innova, Discmania, Dynamic Disc, and Discraft all represented there. So that's pretty cool. Didn't hear of any suspensions or disqualifications at the Masters Cup. So that's definitely a good thing.
The big talk at Masters Cup, obviously, and we could have got this in the main show, was just moving the top of the world hole and shifting the whole number so that you started going up the hill rather than ending there, and moving the top of the world for safety reasons. And a lot of people were upset about that or didn't like it. Ultimately, I think safety comes into the biggest effect here. Mm-hmm. And until they can find a better way to do that, I think we are going to be stuck with that.
Okay. Oh, and also, I know we talked a little bit about it last week because we did the interview just before going live here. Mahmoud had released episode 6, The Inside Line,
I'm gonna have to download
where he talks a little bit about breaking down the media side of playing on ball golf courses. And he had interviewed Ian Anderson, Johnny and myself, Rebecca Cox, Eric McCabe, and Corey Merle. We're all part of that. So if you want to go check out that podcast, please make sure you do so. What's with the DNFs on MP? Excuse me, the DNFs on MPO were people hurt? I can't say I know too much about it. I know there were a few withdrawals. People
that could have been poor play first round, not wanting to play in the really crappy weather second round. I mean, as we said, daylight in the rain could be very dangerous. That might just be a safety issue.
Yeah, it could be. A lot of variables as to why someone, or you're possibly, I don't want to say limping along. You're nursing an injury, and then you have that weather, wet conditions, wet playing surfaces, and then you decide, yeah, it's not really worth it. I know I saw an explanation from one of our top players out there that said it just wasn't worth it to try and fight through it for this weekend.
Andrew Rich?
Yeah, he might have been one of the ones that I saw as well.
Something.
So I can certainly understand that. Mike says, heard that people hurt from slips, as in Peter McBride. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's in that type of condition, I have a hard time judging people from just being like, no, my safety is more important, my health is more important. Most of these people probably don't have health insurance, and an injury would significantly damage a year. Yeah. So I'm good with them just playing it safe.
All right. It's going to drive me crazy. As soon as we close out, I'm going to remember I had something mildly intelligent to talk about, but I don't know what it was now.
I highly doubt that.
No, I actually did. It was really good. It was a legitimate point that I had, or two.
Okay.
Or a question that I was going to pose, but I can't think of it. So Disc Baron is out there and says, I'll donate the bag to Michigan Junior State Championships. Thanks so much, Smashbox and Kids Disc Golf.
Awesome, Disc Baron.
That's all too sweet of you. Thank you. So he's going to take the, not only did he support by making the purchase, but then he's going to take what he won with it and then turn around and donate it to the Michigan Junior State Championships. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Makers Telemark says, why doesn't the PDGA have a group health plan for players?
I don't know if technically they can do that if they're not
Sanders.
Employees. I don't know the legalities of that.
Hillary.
And
Trump. I'm just
throwing politicians out there.
Yeah.
Single payer. Australia. Canada. I honestly, I don't know the legalities of that and whether they can do that if they're not truly employees, what the costs on that would be, because most of the time I know your employer will eat a good portion of the costs for deductibles and stuff like that. It's I don't know. Maybe it's just flat out cheaper if they go on the open market for the amount of money that they end up making or claiming on taxes. I'm sure there's a lot of different things.
Andy, who's on the board, says, yeah, health insurance doesn't work that way. I'll make up your tone and inflection for maybe how you would have said it. He just says, yeah, health insurance doesn't work that way. You know what? Oh, perfect. I have an idea. Oh my gosh. All right, buckle up.
Sit back, people.
Here's the idea. So we're talking about insurance for our touring players, for non-touring players. There should be a disc golfer union. Right? I mean, come on. Huh?
No.
Of course, I chuckle because
there have been a half dozen talks from different
there's been a lot more than a half dozen talks.
Well, I'm just saying different periods of people truly bringing up the idea. I mean, there's been probably tons and tons and tons of talks, but I would say a good half dozen where people really wanted to get serious about this. Like, man, we should, where you really had someone who put the idea out in the world like they were going to do it, and it never became anything. Like, there's always people that are out there, well, we should have a disc golf union. It's good luck.
And clearly I'm just throwing that out in with a sarcastic tone because that argument continues to come up. Whether it's even appropriate or whether it's even applicable is maybe the better word, but that seems to be an answer so often, and it's we're looking out for the players and we're looking out for our all of those types of I'm still excited. I still want to hug and pat the guy on the guy or gal on the back that truly takes this to some serious level, if ever. And I'm assuming it's never going to happen in our lifetime. And quite frankly, I don't know if it should or shouldn't. But the discussion of it is what fuels
chuckles.
My union chuckles.
I would want a good reason why someone should. Not the only, but the primary reason I can think of is maybe why some of the other sports have that. And you've got things like likeness rights where you could coordinate and work on that. So if there was a big company that came to us with a disc golf game that wanted to get all the rights to our players, and having some sort of union could do something like that. Other than that, I mean, unless they all wanted to pitch in money, which you have to do for a union, for some sort of retirement plan after they're done disc golfing, maybe. Yeah, but again, like that's, maybe as like someone says, you could maybe get some sort of health care that way. Again, I don't know if I don't know enough about unions to make a good determination of whether or not we need one, but I'm fairly certain right now we don't need one.
I don't know. I'm running for state coordinator on that platform.
You should.
I'm just kidding. I'm not. Speaking of state coordinators, I think, well, half the states are up for re-election. I have to double check if I'm on that list. I believe my state coordinatorship is possibly up for re-election this year. If you're really good, and I'm not saying you have to be, I'm not saying I am, but if you're really good at
if you're really good and you live in Wisconsin, please take the job from him.
You can have it. I will do it. I will gladly do it. It's been a privilege and an honor to do it here in Wisconsin. However, if you are dying to do it and you want to sift through dozens or hundreds of emails and collaborate back and forth with a dozen or so, maybe 24 TDs in the state, and then sift through emails with one or two individuals 100 times, you can have the job. It may be available. So, yes, I believe that's also coming up. And get in your nominations, I think, for Sportsman of the Year and board candidates and all of those types of things. Those are all unfolding
Disc golf
here.
Switcher of the Year.
Disc golf what?
Switcher.
Yeah. There should be.
I'm making a run for that one.
Yeah, we definitely should do that.
Yeah. Just get tiny little obelisk. like this big.
We should just make up our own award show.
I've heard sayings that go, if you want to legitimize something, you give it an awards show.
Oh.
It helps become
let's do the live broadcast awards.
More legitimate platform. Like podcasting now has like the Webby Awards and the Ace Cable Awards were like some of the very earliest way to legitimize cable things like that. And just it makes, in some people's eyes, it can make it look like a more legitimate sport. We already have awards for disc golf, which I don't necessarily think we need. No. I think we need the awards. I don't think we need our own awards is what I'm saying.
I don't know. Seems like a good idea. Not the game show again. All right, Johnny. I think that's about all we got here tonight.
I'm good.
I don't know. Razram. Well, we're going to call it tonight. We do appreciate you guys joining us here in the after show. Of course, we appreciate you guys joining us for the regular podcast. We're looking forward to this weekend's live action taking place on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We'll
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
We'll repeat that. Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
I know I'm going to get messages on Friday. Where's the
coverage? Yeah. So please make sure you guys like it and put it all out there. Someone asked earlier, where will it be? It will be available on the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube page, and it will likely be available on dgp.tv. And some people say, well, why would you have it in both? Why not just one or the other? What a lot of people have said, I know some people are really disappointed about not having a place for comments or providing, live comments or a comment board or a chat board. You can certainly eliminate that without having to press any extra buttons or do anything crazy if you want to watch it on dgp.tv. It will just give it all to you right there, and you don't have to hide the comments or the chat board or anything of that nature. So that might be one good reason why someone would just inherently want to go right there as opposed to going out and finding it on YouTube. But it will be available in both of those places.
What he said.
Nate, Val, myself, should be a lot of fun, along with some great golf. Looking forward to it. So for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been podcast 248's after show. We're looking forward to live disc golf on the Pro Tour this weekend. We'll see you on Saturday. You step inside the Smashbox.